Hey everyone, welcome to GameFace, episode 282 on Sifted Games at sifted.net. We are back. Apologies. I know we've been kind of stringing you guys along all week, trying to figure out when we're going to be able to do a show. I had knee surgery on Friday. I am very gimpy. I made it against my doctor's best wishes, I should add. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be doing this. But we're running out of time for 2021, so I wanted to make sure I got an episode in for you guys before we tackle the Game of the Year episode next week, and then I take off for the holidays. Here with me to do the last normal episode of Game Face for 2021 is Matt Kyle. What's up, Matt?
Not much. If on the other shot, you get to see a rare rainy day in Los Angeles.
Yeah, actually, I'll flip back there. It is raining today in Los Angeles. This is the first time it's rained, Matt, and I don't know how long.
About a couple months.
Yeah. Not only is it raining, it's very gloomy and dark outside.
It's rained overnight a couple times in the past couple months, but this is the first daytime rain we've seen in a while.
We're also here early. Normally we do the show at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. We're here at noon today for a couple reasons.
Yeah. This is great, by the way, because it's earlier and it's raining, so no one was on the road.
That makes it easier.
In L.A., if it rains, people stay home.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. It's
just the way it is. Yeah.
As someone from San Francisco, it's like you'd never get anything done if you did it.
Yeah.
But traffic's sometimes it's worse because there's crashes and stuff. But usually during the day, people aren't going out.
No one. Yeah.
It's great.
Well, we're here an hour early for a couple reasons. The first reason is I have a post-op doctor's appointment to check out my knee today. But then the other part of it is that the Game Awards are happening today. Mm-hmm. Those kick off at 5 p.m. today, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, there's a 4:30 pre-show where they usually show some stuff.
Yeah,
but
I would not recommend people show up for that. You can, but usually the good stuff starts at 5. So this show is going to go until 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and we're out hard at 4 because I have to rush across town to get to a doctor's appointment. Then rush back from that to be ready to handle the Game Awards. If you are not going to watch the Game Awards, fret not. As always, with any major event, we'll be curating all the hot media, all the big reveals, literally the minute that they debut in the Game Awards. So if you can't make it for the live show tonight, go to sifted.net. We'll have everything sitting there for you. It'll all be sifted and sorted by your preferences. You'll get all the hot stuff that you really care about at the top of your sift. Big day today for video games. Mm-hmm. People
less
are probably
of a big day for Dragon Age fans,
or not. People are probably wondering, how did my surgery go? It sucked.
Did you watch it?
I did not watch it. They put me under completely. Yeah, I had the full-on anesthesia. It was crazy. So I get there. The doctor comes in 5 minutes before I go in for surgery, and he tells me, okay, we're going to fix your meniscus, which is what I had gone to him for to get fixed. And he's like, and we're going to cut your ACL in half, and we're going to stretch it tight, and we're going to rejoin it with a laser. And I was like, excuse me?
Was it new information?
He's like, oh, yeah, no big deal. And he just walks out. And I was like, what the hell? Well, so when I did my MRI, my ACL, he said, and my ACL has been replaced in that knee already. He said it had stretched. And that when my knee was straight, that the ACL was like a ribbon inside my knee because it wasn't elastic enough. And he didn't say anything about doing anything about it. He's like, you're fine, your knee's stable and strong. I'm just telling you that's what you're seeing there. And then we get there 5 minutes before the surgery. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to cut your ACL in half and burn it back together with a laser. And I'm like, what? Like, he hadn't talked about this at all the whole time. Like, I felt like I was just a part of like a machine. But I guess the good news is I have not been in a ton of pain. Mm-hmm. My knee is huge, and I wish I hadn't worn pants. I would show it to you guys. But my knee...
I'm glad you wore pants.
Yeah. My knee is like twice the size of my other knee right now, but the pain has not been that bad. I've only really had to take a leave. Like, I didn't take any of the scripts that they gave me for pain, so that part's been good. Mm-hmm. And all things considered, I came through it okay. In hindsight, it was really foolish to think I was going to do a game face on Tuesday. Like, part of it was that this surgery ended up being more involved than it was supposed to be. 5 minutes before it happened, it became more involved than it was supposed to. So, anyway, thanks to everyone for all the well wishes. I posted like a picture of my knee all wrapped up on Twitter. Everyone was very nice, wishing me, a quick recovery and, telling me to rest and all that. we can't rest right now. We literally have like a week and a half left until everyone's gone for the holidays. So we have this show today, and it is a full show, full of big games, I would add. And then we have a show next week, which will be our Game of the Year awards. Usually when we do that, we have like the first like 40 minutes of like where we're just like picking up the scraps of stuff that we want to talk about before we leave for the holidays. So it'll lead off with that. Well, it'll also lead off with a rundown of our fantasy leagues. We'll go through Matt and I's fantasy league. We'll go through the fantasy challenge. We'll determine the winner of that, and someone will win games. If they're a patron, they'll win 2 free games. If they're not a patron, they'll win 1. But we'll decide that in next week's show, and then we'll get into our Game of the Year awards, which typically has 20-some categories or whatever. Not quite the 30-plus that the Game Awards has, but
we will actually devote time to each one.
We will, and we'll talk about each award and why the games won or didn't win.
Yeah, who knew?
And you guys actually like it. Who would have ever guessed that you guys would enjoy 2 people talking about game awards and the actual awards instead of...
I think we might, a couple of these, I think we might just like list the winners and then talk about razors for 20 minutes. Yeah?
One thing's for sure, you're not going to get corny like shaving cream commercials here. I was surprised the one year that like some journalists were involved in that stuff. I'm not going to name names or anything, but like there were like journalists who were like...
There have been a lot of embarrassing moments.
Who were a part of those gags. I was just like, what? You probably shouldn't be doing that, but...
No.
Whatever. Everyone's got to make a buck.
Job integrity aside, you probably shouldn't be doing
those things. Everyone's got to make a living, so I'm not begrudging someone
I don't know. That was the thing. I'm like, did they get paid for that? Or just doing it? I don't know. I hope they got paid for it. But...
The one person I know for sure got paid.
Yeah.
The person I was particularly embarrassed for, but yeah. So the Game Awards are tonight. They do start at 5 o'clock. This show ends at 4. That gives you an hour to get something to eat, do some odds and ends, take care of an errand or 2, and then sit right back down for another couple hours of great gaming content. So today's a huge day for us, for gaming in general. We will talk about the Game Awards later on in the show, but we're going to kick things off, and I know people knew this was happening. But before we do that, actually, let me take a look at the chat to see if anybody subscribed with Twitch Prime to thank people. Petor91, thank you for Twitch Prime. JM Rain 99, thank you. Karma Lounge, thank you.
JM Rain, rare footage of JM Rain buying a subscription for himself.
Did he really?
Yeah, he subscribed.
Yeah, but that's free. That's Amazon Prime.
He's usually
giving them out. Yeah.
Yeah.
El Guapo, thank you for the kind words. I am on the mend, and I am doing better, but I'm still not great. Glottis21, thank you for Twitch Prime. Andy T. Monahan, thank you for Twitch Prime. Who else got in here? We just got a hype train emote. I'm going to share that with the crew here in the chat. What's up, Johnny Hurricane? Hope you're doing good, man. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Dejvg 777. DEJVG 777. Thank you for Twitch Prime. Appreciate it, man. And I think that's everybody off the top of the show, which means it's time for Matt and I to get trucking. We're going to kick things off. You guys have probably already guessed what we're kicking this episode off with. Halo Infinite.
You want me to talk about Ask Shane anything?
Oh, good point. That's a good point. You read the rundowns more than I do, it seems like. Ask Shane Anything, the very last episode.
I don't see them till I get here.
Yeah, that's true. Ask Shane Anything, the very last episode of 2021 is this Saturday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. I've gone through this spiel before. If you want to participate in the Zoom call, which is basically just a podcast. I host a podcast, and you guys are Matt. That's basically how it works. But if you want to participate in that, you have to pledge at $7 or more per month at patreon.com/sifted. Now, everybody gets to watch the archive or listen to the archive. But if you want to be a part of the discussion, you have to pledge at $7 or more per month. And we had a great time in the last one. It was an excellent show, and I'm hoping we can finish the year strong. So maybe set a little reminder on your phone, noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern on Saturday. Make sure you check our Patreon. There will be a link there that only people who pledge at $7 or more per month can see to the Zoom call. And we'll all jump on. We'll talk about games one last time before we send 2021 packing. And now we're ready to talk about Halo Infinite. So we already discussed the multiplayer. I am going to discuss that a little bit at the end of this discussion because I have continued to play it and I've played a lot more. And my perspective has changed a little bit since we first discussed it, since like the beta came live on Game Pass. But most of the discussion today is going to be about the campaign in Halo Infinite. It's the thing that just released yesterday. Matt, what do you think so far?
I think it's great.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it too.
Yeah.
Like really enjoying it.
It's the first Halo campaign I've enjoyed since Reach, so
Those are some big words.
Only, well, no, it's not because 4 and 5 are terrible. But like, no, I think they did it. And part of it is because they're back to I know they're called the Banished now, but they're back to the Covenant. I'm not fighting Prometheans.
Yep.
The gunplay feels really good.
I mean,
it's fun.
It's a throwback.
I'm on a Halo. It's like, hi, you remembered what the fucking the game is.
Yeah.
Like, well done.
Yeah. Yep. It's a throwback.
Yeah.
And I think it shows that 343 just came to the conclusion that, you know what, we can't make a new Halo game that's good, that the fans are going to be happy with. So they've gone back, and some people may be happy about this, some people may not, but it's basically Halo 3 with the continuing story that has been happening in Halo 4 and Halo 5.
Which I'm just having to take on faith because I don't remember anything from those games outside
from 4 and 5.
Outside, like, not like I have like the Halo encyclopedia, the thing that like sums the whole story up for the I'm like read. I'm just like I still don't remember any of that stuff. Like I was very confused at the beginning of this, like how much was continuing off of Halo 5 and how much was just nuke stuff.
Yeah. The game does not do a good job of bridging the gap between.
Does not onboard you very well
between 5 and
narratively.
Infinite.
Which is, I mean, it's kind of fine because like. Who cares? Like this story. I mean, the story is still the same turgid sci-fi prose that the series has always been. You barely understand what they're talking about half the time.
I don't think it's that bad.
It's. I mean, it's not like Destiny bad, but
it's not overly wordy. The prose. It's a framework, basically. Yeah,
you don't need to worry. I mean, like, one of my friends was like, "It's like no spoilers, just in case I play." I'm like, I don't know how I'd spoil it. Like nothing's happened really. Like,
well, I mean, yeah. There are spoilers, definitely. But
you'd have to care about the Halo universe first,
And just so you know, because a lot of people are confused, this is a sequel to Halo 5.
Yeah, this is Halo 6.
It's Halo 6. They didn't name it Halo 6 for whatever reason. It picks up half a year after.
We don't want them to associate this with Arabic numerals. Let's not remind them about 4 and 5.
It picks up 6 months after the events of Halo 5. If you remember at the end of Halo 5, like basically Cortana had turned into a bad guy.
Cortana had gone rampant.
She had gone rampant, which
another nice reference to Marathon.
Yeah, it is.
Which is it was funny. I saw some videos of like Marathon and stuff. Just probably from the Halo algorithm, I guess. And from years and years and years ago about like the connections to Halo and like but they're not really because it's not really and like. I was like, no, they are. I mean, I know they retconned it because they don't have the rights to Marathon anymore, but like, they clearly take place in the same universe. Like Bungie's stuff used to be in the same universe. Even the Ghost in the Shell ripoff they made.
Yeah.
Oni was basically the
I forgot about Oni.
Yeah, it was the story of basically the origins of the company that made the tech in Marathon.
No, not a great game.
No, but
not terrible, but not
and Myth.
Great either.
Myth has had the cosmic horror gods in it were basically the same as like the Forerunner stuff and all. Like it was a lot of connections. And like my response to that was sort of like, no, it's real. And I looked down and there was a comment from me from 12 years ago saying like, no, this is actually is connected. Like, I'm always the Marathon symbol pops up in Halo pretty often, and so it's a whole thing. So I love it.
Yeah.
It's cool to see stuff like that.
Well, at the end of Halo 5, Cortana has gone rampant, which is basically corrupted.
Yeah, and basically, if an AI lives long enough, it will essentially go crazy.
Right.
And that's why in this, the new AI is constantly talking about how she's supposed to be deleted.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to wipe these AIs periodically.
After her mission, she's supposed to be wiped.
Which is pretty standard. Like, the fact that Cortana lived so long is unusual.
Well, it's because Chief overrides. He obviously
you try and take Chief's memory chip out of his head and see how that goes for you, basically.
So this picks up 6 months after Cortana has basically gone crazy. And from what I can remember was like trying to wipe out like a bunch of data and information that is valuable to Halos.
And she was basically trying to take over the Halo network.
Right, yeah.
And nobody really knew what she was going to do.
Yep.
You can't let that power fall into anyone's hands, even hers, basically.
And so there's a 6 month gap. And at the beginning of the game, they show you a brief cinematic that's supposed to fill you in on what happens. And what happens is Master Chief in the UNSC goes to Halo Zeta and following Cortana and ends up in a war with the Banished. The Banished win the war. They think they kill Master Chief. He's thrown out into space. The ring is basically destroyed. And the game picks up. There's someone from the UNSC floating in space. He sees Master Chief floating outside. He brings him in, revives him essentially, and then Master Chief heads down to Halo Zeta.
And you've basically seen that scene in the...
That scene's been in all the trailers. He heads down to Halo Zeta to finish the fight.
He's constantly trying to finish the fight.
He's constantly trying to finish the fight.
Master Chief just wants to rest.
Yeah. So essentially what happened is there was a war between UNSC and the Banished, and the Banished won and kicked their butts. And Master Chief is believed to be one of the only surviving Spartans from the war.
Yeah, you find a lot of dead Spartans in this game.
Yeah, and eventually you do start coming across dead Spartans in the game. And they actually give you like some of the better upgrades that you get whenever you find their bodies. You get these little chips or discs that you end up using to upgrade.
You very, very solemnly and sadly insert into yourself to be more awesome.
This is true. As Matt said, it is like a typical Halo story. Like, there are spoilers, but literally there's probably like 3 or 4 in the whole game. Most of the minute-to-minute stuff, there isn't a lot of exposition.
No, it's just like aliens want a thing, you got to go get this base, go.
Master Chief, as usual, a man of few words, but the few words that he does say, they nail it. Like, that's one thing 343 has managed to get right and been able to do well is Master Chief.
Yeah, the problem was that, like, for a couple games, like, he was barely in it.
Right. And this game is Chief.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, this is the Halo that resulted after fans complained about 2 entries in a row, basically.
Yeah. And they are, I mean, I see some people in the chat be like, oh, is it a throwback because it's open world? Like, yes, it is a throwback. It is open world, but, like, that is one of the things that actually kind of inadvertently makes it a throwback is, like, I am most reminded of Halo 1, like, going to these big open areas and having to figure out how to fight in them.
Yep.
They're just not connected by little, loading screens or little, like, like corridors. They're just big open areas, and you come to a place where, like, okay, I got to do a thing here, and let's take a look at where all these Banished are. And now I got to come in at this, figure out what angle I want to come at, figure out what weapons I want to use. Like, it's very much like the experience of playing the first Halo, which is still one of my favorites. And kind of going back to that as opposed to sort of the metal hallway shooter it became in 4 and 5 is really good.
There's a lot of that in this too.
There's some of that, but it never becomes oppressive.
Yeah.
The longest stretch of that is really in the opening.
Yeah.
And when they kick you out in the open world, you'll go, story missions or like big locations or installations, like you'll be doing the standard Halo corridor shooting stuff.
Yep.
But it never feels like it's all you're doing. You never end up in the library again.
You play the game almost 2 hours before you get sent into the open world.
Yeah, it takes a while.
It's like almost a quarter of the game.
Yeah, and I'll say this, like, it's definitely going to be less than a quarter of the game for me because I spent a lot of time finding stuff in the open world.
Yeah.
But, like...
Which are hard to find, I would add. I haven't hardly found anything. The only thing I find are audio logs.
They're all on the map.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't even see
the
the
audio logs are not, but which is funny that you find because they beep. So,
yeah.
But the Spartan points and the Mjolnir upgrades for the multiplayer, those are all on the map.
Yeah, I've seen some of those.
Yeah. So I go get those before I move on.
And so it takes 2 hours before you get thrown into the open world. And we're using the term open world very loosely. This game, the way it's built, is very much like God of War 2018. You have these big open environments, but they don't seamlessly transition into the next open big environment. There are loading screens in between. There are kind of gates in between.
I haven't seen any loading screens.
Oh, there are. What do you mean you haven't seen loading screens in this? Some of them are awful. Some of the loading times in this game are terrible.
No.
What?
I haven't had any load screens.
What?
Like when the new island, like just the bridge opens and I walked across the bridge.
I don't think you've made it very far yet.
Maybe?
Yeah.
I'm like halfway through whatever, the second island or whatever.
Yeah, but have you noticed you can't go back to the other island?
I haven't tried to do that.
Yeah, like when you start it loads and you're planted onto the second island.
But it says I can fast travel back.
Maybe I haven't tried it.
I assume that's a load. I haven't fast traveled it yet.
Fast travel loads, but it's pretty
that's
quick.
Fast travel.
But there are loads in this, tons of them. Like you'll walk through a door. I have had loads that have been almost a minute long in this, and I have no idea why.
From what?
Like you fit. Like again, you're not very far, and I don't want to spoil stuff, but like eventually when you finish major objectives, it'll go to a loading screen. You'll finish the boss fight or whatever. You'll walk out the door. It'll just go to black. A load will come up. It'll sit there, and then it'll load in like either the next cutscene or the next area or whatever.
I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, there's tons of loading in this, and some of the loading times are long. I was shocked by that. I was like, is my SD malfunctioning? Like, why are the loads taking so long in this game? But anyway, it is designed like God of War 2018. Each area is pretty big. And if you would go back and like play a game from the PS2 era that's like quote unquote open world, each chunk of this game is probably as big as that whole game from the PS2 era, as far as like the square mileage or whatever. So it's, while you're playing, it feels like you're in an open world though. There's like patrols, enemy patrols walking around. Like if you come across little groups of enemies, that's a red flag that there's something hidden nearby. There's either a door that you need to find to get into to get some power up, or there's like an antenna that you need to take over or whatever. So there are a lot of the tenets of the open world, but there's also a lot of stuff missing. So there's no vehicles just strewn around. Like,
yeah, there are. I found warthogs and
no.
ghosts.
You could only get them at your operating base.
That's incorrect. I have picked up warthogs laying around where like I've rescued some guys, and there have been ghosts I've picked up.
No, that's only after you take over an outpost.
That is not true. I have picked up...
You have to spawn them at the outpost, Matt.
They did not spawn at the... I mean, you can do that, but I have found them in the world.
I have never
I found a warthog laying by the side of the road with some Marines near them. I got in. The Marines got in the back, and we drove into that first tower that you're supposed to take over.
I have never seen a vehicle in the open world.
I've picked up ghosts.
And I've played a lot more than you. And I've not seen one.
I picked up ghosts from like installation, like forward operating bases.
No, I did pick up you'll see in the end of the B-roll. I
have not used them because I hate them, but I found mongooses laying around.
The only one I found, you'll see at the end of this B-roll, I did get in, is the ghost, the little like scooter thing that you get in that can shoot.
The little hover thing, yeah.
That's the only vehicle I found in the open world.
I found a few of those.
That was way into the game before I got there.
That was like one of the maybe 20 minutes into the open world.
Interesting.
Because I used that to take over the first purple base.
Wow. I had not, until that point, I had never seen one.
No, they've been around. I mean, they're not common. It's not like it's like they're like warthogs laying around everywhere. But I've definitely picked up vehicles out in the open world.
Back to my original point, that is something that is really different about this from most open world games. Most open world games have vehicles just everywhere that you can just hop in whenever you want to. That is not the case. Like I've found one, and I'm about 2/3 of the way finished, I would say. I found one. Typically how it works is you take over outposts like Assassin's Creed. You go in, you invade. Sometimes you may have to blow up like some oil pump.
What about the tank? You find the tank?
Inside
that garage?
Yeah. But that was inside
seems planned.
the outpost.
That was planned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's part of the mission.
It is part of the mission. Yeah. But that was also inside the outpost that you were taking over. And there are vehicles in there. I've seen vehicles in the outpost. I've just never seen them out in the world.
Yeah, a couple times.
Interesting.
I feel like those must be like something, because the Marine one looked like something went wrong. Because I saw a firefight, I went over and killed the guys, and there was a warthog laying on the side of the road, and basically the Marines were trying to take cover behind the warthog and shoot the banished. And when I killed them, they're like, "Hey, chief!" And so I jumped to the fucking warthog. Why wouldn't I get in the warthog?
So you'll find like out in the open world, you'll find groups of Marines who have been like basically tethered, and they're being held hostage. And you can take over that little outpost, and suddenly they're on your team, and they will kind of like follow you around for a while.
They'll help until you like outrun them easily.
I can't figure out what makes them disappear.
I think they're just not as fast as you. So
well, there was one time I was in a vehicle and I just ignored them, and I think maybe one jumped in the warthog with me, and I just took off driving, and literally like 7 minutes later, the other dudes show up. Like they had not given up, and they had kept trying to follow. I honestly don't know what the parameters are for whether they follow you or not.
I haven't figured that out either, because I don't need them. So
you don't need them. Yeah, they actually just kind of get in the way more than anything.
Although my favorite, when I rescued some guys, my favorite like one-off line in the game has been from like random chatter has been, I rescued some guy. The guy goes, "I'm ready. I'm not happy about it, but I'm ready."
I see Betrays asking if I was playing on Xbox One and not Series. No, I'm playing on Xbox Series X. Yeah. There are loading screens. Shuffle scrub. Shane is terrible, I swear. I don't even know what that means. But why are you watching this show if I'm terrible? Why are you sitting here right now watching GameFace if I'm terrible?
Clearly for me.
I guess. He just bears me. That's great. Thanks, Shuffle Scrub. You're an awesome dude. Thank you. Want more people like you in our chat. That would be awesome. So anyway, the open world is an open world, but there are caveats. It's not like playing a Far Cry game or something like that where there's just there's not as much mischief to get into.
It's not a Ubisoft map where it's just like you look at it and you're like, what the heck? Like, oh my god, there's too much to do. Like it's the density of stuff to do is more like 10 years ago open worlds. You know? Like it actually feels manageable.
That's what I was saying. And they're kind of like It's kind of like PS2 era open world games.
And like I'd go more than that. I'd be more like 360 era. PS2 era, there weren't a lot of open worlds.
After Grand Theft Auto, there was tons of them. Everyone started imitating it. There was, what was that EA game? I can't remember the name of it now.
Mercenaries?
Yeah, Mercenaries. Yeah. There was stuff like that. None of them were that great, but everyone was trying to figure it out basically back then.
That was on Xbox. That was good. Yeah. But although, don't go back and play it again.
Well, I'm sure it's terrible.
It'll ruin everything.
Yeah, I'm sure it is terrible.
I was so excited when they made that backwards compatible, and I'm like, yeah, finally I get to play Mercenaries again. Oh, no.
Solo Dolo asking, have you guys found any skulls? I have not found a single skull.
I found one skull.
Did you? And that's something else that's in this game?
Up at the top of that first tower.
Okay. For those of you who don't know, skulls are these modifiers. So if you find the skulls during the campaign, when you start the campaign, you can enable a skull, and the skull will make it basically harder. But then you get better rewards. So it's like a risk-reward system. But I haven't found one yet at all. And I will say this. I've not been scouring the environments looking for stuff. Because when I have tried to do it, there's never anything there. And so after the first few hours of it, I was like, I'm not going to burn my time like looking through
everything's on the map. So I just mark a thing on the map and go to it. Except for the audio logs. Yeah, the audio logs are not. But those are the things that are least interesting to me because they do not upgrade the character.
Right, yeah. Let's see.
The skulls are not as hard to find as some of the previous games, also because in some of the old games, like Halo 3, it was like you had to set up an archaeological dig to find some of those things.
Yeah, they were hard to find.
They were like you had to watch videos.
There were guides to find the skulls, and so I haven't found one yet in this.
These are they're definitely more hidden than the other stuff, but they do pop up on the map periodically.
Yep. So Matt, to me, there are some trade-offs with Halo in the open world, and that is that the game it's a persistent environment. Mm-hmm. So it's this wilderness area that you're in, and you're in it a lot. And one thing I did like about the linearity of the old Halo games is that you never knew where you were going to go next. So a mission ends, the next cutscene, you could get on a ship and just fly off somewhere. And next thing you know, you're in some completely different alien environment. That's kind of missing from this. Everything is kind of consistent.
Yeah, but that alien environment is probably a bunch of hallways made out of metal.
Well, usually it was a really barren outdoor area with hardly any trees or foliage.
Like I wouldn't mind.
And then you go inside.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind some other biomes. I wouldn't mind like a snowy area or something. Like, and I thought maybe I don't know. Like I thought maybe higher up on the map there'll be snow, but probably not. I will say I know they cut tons of stuff out of this game to get it done. Like there was an interview today that said they cut basically 2/3 of the game.
Yeah, I think Jason Schreier published something today, right? Yeah,
and I will say I hope they finish some of that because I would definitely play a yearly sort of story drop on this Halo Infinite platform. So I would definitely keep doing this.
Yep. As we've talked about, there's tons of collectibles in the game, which was surprising. I mean, it's an open world game, so you'd expect it, but I didn't expect it in a Halo open world game. And then, like in Assassin's Creed or Far Cry, when you get to a new area for the first time, you discover that area. Mm-hmm. You take over outposts throughout the open world, and when you do, like all the USNC shows up, and it's not as elaborate.
And that's what opens up. That's what marks all the collectibles on the map nearby.
Yep.
So just like a Ubisoft tower.
And then you can start spawning vehicles from that outpost as well. And as you complete missions, you earn this currency called Valor. And the more Valor you get, the more vehicles and weapons that are unlocked out the outpost for you to spawn and then use.
And I was pleasantly surprised to find that was actually just whatever your total of Valor, that is what unlocks. I thought I was going to have to spend Valor to unlock each of those things.
Got you.
So I was like playing, okay, I'll save up until I can afford the battle rifle. But then no, just as you progress in the Valor total, all those open up as you go. You don't have to spend it. It's not a currency.
Yep. You die a lot.
Yeah. It's not even on normal. It's not a pushover. You go in guns blazing, you're gonna get killed.
You just die because you get surrounded by enemies, and sometimes they just throw a grenade. You never see them, you never hear it, and it just blows you up. It's just that's Halo. It's always been that way. The game has gone back to the 15 seconds at a time mantra, where the game is built in these little mini skirmishes that are all snapped together to create a whole. And it's great. The pacing is awesome. There's very little downtime. There's just enough downtime.
Yeah.
Because it
feels
does.
good. Like,
You fight a lot.
Yeah, even fighting like I used to never like fighting the brutes because they felt like sponges, and they don't anymore.
No.
Like, it feels like you're doing damage. Yeah, enough of their armor flies off and you're shooting them that it feels like, okay, I'm doing something, and they react to things. You can, most of them, except some of the berserkers, you can stop. If you have a weapon with enough stopping power, you can, like, stop them. And when they die, it's satisfying. They adopted that Battlefield thing where the little red X pops up to show that you killed them.
Yeah, so you don't have to guess whether you finished them off.
It's great for, like, long range stuff.
Yeah, love it.
They do there's been a couple articles about this, but it's like, I can tell what everything is at range. Like, I can look across a fucking canyon and look at the other rim of the canyon and tell what is shooting at me.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a vulture or a brute or whatever. I'm like, what happened to that in shooters? Like, it's like the visual readability of this game is crystal clear.
4K
like,
helps.
The graphics aren't crystal clear at all times, but I know exactly what I'm looking at enemy-wise, even way, way away. Like, they did a really good job. I mean, granted, it helps that you have all these different individually shaped aliens, and it's not all just like men in soldier outfits. It's just like they've got an advantage here where they get to. The original Halo created these silhouettes basically of these characters to work on a lower res console, and it's a testament to how good Bungie of old was, that you put these character designs these enemy designs in a game 20 years later and it still works. The enemies all pretty much you've fought a million times before. It is just literally but I'm happy to see them. After all the Promethean crap.
I think people earlier in the chat were like, it's a throwback, but it has an open world. It does, but when you're playing the game, it feels like an old Halo game.
Yeah.
It has,
and that's a compliment.
It is.
To me.
Like, I think maybe people in chat were like saying we're trying to slag it for that. No.
Throwback doesn't mean bad.
Yeah, like, I like this more than Halo 4 and 5.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we should have said that off the top and been blatantly clear about it. But we both like this way more than Halo 4 and 5. It's everything we're saying isn't like we're not criticizing the game anytime we bring up something about it. Everyone's sensitive today. What's going on? Everyone's like on edge or all aggro. I don't get it. Let's see. You die a lot. Not much wildlife in the open world either compared to most open world games these days.
I mean, there's definitely creatures around, but you don't really do anything with them.
You hear it? Like, the sound design has, like, all these animals, but there's, like, a couple birds in this guy. Every once in a while, I've come across a couple ground animals.
Yeah, I've seen a fair amount of animals, but they just don't do anything. Yeah. You can't even, I don't think you can even kill them.
I haven't tried.
Neither have I. But,
but there's no, like...
There's no reason to.
Yeah.
There's no hunting. It's not you're not crafting bags and stuff out of them.
Yeah, there's no crafting at all in this game, which is something else that a lot of open world games has that this does not have. As we said, once you take over outposts, you can fast travel to any of them you want. It's generally quick and snappy. It does go to a quick load, but it is pretty fast, and it helps a lot. Because, as I said, there aren't just vehicles everywhere in this world. Matt's come across a couple. I came across one in the open world. But for the most part, it's not like you're playing Far Cry where there's like 20 cars per every square mile.
There's no traffic.
Yeah, there's no traffic at all. And so getting like across the map can be a little annoying depending on the vehicle that you have. Like, because some of the trails are kind of narrow, so you have a Warthog, you have to go slow to make sure you're not hitting rocks on the side of the road and stuff like that. So the fast travel works very well, and it helps a lot in this game, more than a lot of other open world games, because the vehicles aren't quite as prevalent. So we've been talking about upgrades for Chief. You can basically upgrade like a handful of his abilities, and they're not there at the beginning. As we said earlier, as you come across fallen Spartans, they give you these abilities. And there's like a handful of them that you can upgrade as you go along. There is the grapple shot, which is basically his grapple hook, or his hook shot if you're a Zelda fan. The shield core, which basically just makes your shield more powerful. The threat sensor, which is essential in one boss fight. I don't know if you've got to that. Have you got the threat sensor yet?
I did.
The boss fight right after that, if you use the threat sensor, is easy as pie. You went the hard way?
No, I did the easy way.
Oh, okay.
He died in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Because he was standing next to explosive stuff. So I blew the explosive stuff up and he just fell over.
That's awesome.
I've had that happen a couple times where, like, like the infamous enemies. You go like a couple times I've been fighting them. It was a long fight, and then suddenly they just fell over. Just died. Like when I blew up something near them, and it felt like they shouldn't have taken that much damage from it, but they just died.
There's boss fights, a lot of boss fights in this game, and they're easy. Once you figure out, all you have to do is just unload all your grenades.
Yeah.
So I would try to get cute or smart in fighting the bosses at first.
Yeah, plasma grenades.
And literally, you can hold like 6 grenades at a time. I just literally just throw all 6 at once, and it kills almost every boss in the game, like immediately. Just a pro tip for you there as you make
anything
it further
that
into
sticks,
the game.
like the plasma grenades and the handle grenades that stick. Those are your key boss weapons.
Yep, they help a lot. Even if you're just good.
Even
at
if they're
throwing
invisible, they will still stick to them.
Yeah, they do. So you have like those things that you can upgrade. So at first you get the ability from the Fallen Spartans, and then as you play, you get these credits that you can use to upgrade each one of them.
Well, that's what you find those in the open world.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons.
Are those on the map?
Yeah.
The upgrade ones are?
The Spartan points, yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Spartan points, Mjolnir, lockers, armories, skulls, and...
the skulls appear on the map.
Sometimes.
How did I miss that?
I don't know. I haven't seen skulls forever, because sometimes they...
I wonder if I accidentally filtered the icons on my map.
That could be, but sometimes like you highlight the base or whatever, and it'll show you the collectibles nearby. Sometimes they're like redded out, and I think that means you can't get them yet.
Gotcha. Okay.
But when I've gotten the one skull I got appeared on the map at the top of that tower, and I was able to get up there and get it. So yeah, like everything except the audio logs seems to appear, and the audio logs can be confusing. The audio logs are pretty easy to find because they show up on the radar on the scan thing you can do, and they make a loud beep. However, like one of the first purple base, I found 2 audio logs while I was doing that. And when it finished and took over the base, it says I'm missing. I have 0 out of 2 audio logs.
Really?
So I'm not sure if that's a glitch or there's 2 more that I haven't found. Those didn't count.
I've had a few glitches here and there, but the code's pretty clean.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff in the early reviews about how what a technical mess it was, but I haven't had an issue.
I had one boss that kneeled down and then slid across the map. Knelt. Like he didn't move. He just started sliding across like the area. So there's a couple slight bugs, but for the most part, this game's pretty clean. The grapple shot is awesome. Have you really started messing around and experimenting with it? Have you upgraded it?
I upgraded it to zap people.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
And to recharge faster, because I kept falling off things and wanting to Spider-Man back up, and it wouldn't recharge fast enough. And now it recharges just fast enough for me to make progress up.
It's awesome. So you can grapple 2 enemies and pull yourself into them, and after you upgrade it the first time, it will shock them and stun them. And against the brutes and some of the tougher enemies in the game, it's invaluable. Like a lot of times I just hook shot to them, stun them, and just melee them, and because I don't want to waste ammo. Because that's another part of this game, ammo. Like if you find a gun that you really fall in love with, you can't just keep using it. Eventually you're going to run out of ammo and you have to switch to something else, which is fine because there are so many weapons in this game, Matt. So many. And a lot of them are awesome. I enjoy using almost all of them.
Yeah, the only ones I don't really like are still the ones that I never liked.
I still don't like
the Needler.
The Needler.
But...
I love the concept of the Needler, but I don't like using it in combat.
Yeah, I will use the Needler if I have to.
And sometimes you do.
Sometimes you do, but it's... And you can also find... unique versions of the various weapons, usually by doing when you do the fights with the notorious, the most wanted guys, you'll usually get a souped up version of a standard weapon doing that you can then spawn at the base, which is cool.
Yep. I love the weapons in this. One of my favorites.
They're good at rewarding you for even though there's not a ton of, it's not super dense Far Cry level density for things to do in the open world, you are generally rewarded properly for anything you do out there.
Yep, absolutely. There are ammo stations in the game, just like these places you can just walk up to and completely fill up your plasma stuff. It's generally for the alien weapons.
There's 3 different. There's plasma and kinetic, which is standard bullets, and hard light.
Yep.
Which is Promethean stuff.
Yeah, that's super weapons basically, and you don't come across those very often. But I love how the guns feel. I've pretty much learned how to use every one of them, and some of them are very good in specific situations. Like the blaster weapons are great on enemies with shields because the blaster immediately disintegrates the shield. You can also use the hook shot to take the shield away from shielded enemies, which is another technique that I found. I just hook shot them really quickly. They blast back and the shield goes up, and then I follow up with a couple blasts to finish them off. Like, the combat in this is really good. And it's not all that different from Halo 3, but that's okay because they had kind of nailed it at that point with Halo 3. What else? I mean, one thing I'll say is that this game just provides so many memorable moments where just random stuff happens. Like, there'll be a group of enemies, and one of the little dudes will pull out a grenade, but you headshot him right before he throws it, so it just drops in the middle of the enemy, and then all the enemies just scatter to try to get it. Like, that stuff happens all the time. Just these little moments.
And
that
that
you're
used
like,
to be sort of the core of the Halo experience, and then the Prometheans came along, and that stopped.
Yeah, and it's back.
And you random, I'll blow up a little plasma container and I'll kill some guys, but then that'll set off like another plasma. The plasma containers, like if they get hit on the bottom, like will rocket around like a little like a container that's been like that'll blow something else up and knock a guy out of cover, and then I get to shoot. Like the chain reaction of stuff happening is very satisfying all the time.
All the time. And to your point earlier, you're talking about the explosive crates. Like, I didn't mess around with those for the first like hour or two. I kind of avoided them. But you're right, you got to use them.
Yeah, you grapple that. That's a solution I've used a number of times. Like, oh, these guys are coming at me. Pull that in.
Grapple
boom,
it. Smack them with
that'll
it.
kill them.
Yep.
Usually, even the brutes can't really take more than one shot to the face from a plasma canister.
You can also grapple to any vehicle. So if the enemy has a vehicle and you want it, just grapple to it and then just hit the X button, overtake the vehicle, and it's yours. The verticality that it adds to the game in general makes a big difference.
Yeah. Grappling hooks in open worlds are generally just
they
good
work
ideas.
pretty well.
Yeah.
It's not quite as freeform as Just Cause, because Just Cause is built just for that. Like, every environment they design
that's the primary
for the grapple
traversal
hook.
mechanic in Just Cause. This is more of an aid.
But a very effective
very
one.
Good.
And a very fun one.
And it ensures you never have to worry about not being able to get up something or climb something, or I got to go around this mountain. No, you can go up.
You can go up
over it.
Yeah,
You're
it's
good.
pretty awesome. And it works well, too. Like, the controls for it are intuitive, and they work.
Once you switch them.
Yeah.
Once you switch because I'm like, why are you on the grenade shoulder button? Why are you over there?
I switched that as soon as I started playing. Yeah, I don't know why they did it that way. Is that the way classic Halo is?
No, but my hands want to say that right bumper is grenade.
Yeah.
And I know in the old Halos left trigger was grenade.
It was?
Yeah.
I forgot that.
Because there was no zoom.
Oh, right.
It was just fire and left trigger, fire and grenade.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. That makes sense. What else? I think that's it. No chapter select. You notice that?
Yeah, I did.
So
because you can always just go back.
Yeah,
to
most
locations.
Halo games, like, you can just choose the chapter that you want to play and go back and replay it. But in this one, it's not that way.
Maybe
they say it's coming.
Yeah, it'll probably be coming just like co-op. It is weird. This is the first Halo campaign I have not played co-op since Halo 1.
No.
Every other Halo game I have played co-op.
I never play. I always play by myself usually.
I've always played first time co-op. And I don't really miss it in this because it feels appropriate as a solo game.
It's a Master Chief game.
Yeah.
It's all about him.
And for an open world thing, I prefer to dick around and take my time and not worry about what somebody else wants to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I love it. I think it's great. Would you spend $60 for it?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, I would. I would buy this.
This is the best.
I would. Here's the thing. I probably wouldn't have before I played it.
Okay.
But now that I'm playing
it, that's why we're here.
But now that I'm playing it, I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't have been unhappy if I bought this.
It's good. It's really good.
I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it.
The Game Pass thing creates a weird demographic shift sometimes. So, like, clearly tons of people are playing this game, but tons of them do not seem to be playing the campaign. Because when I got to I think I played, I got to the open world part like late afternoon yesterday.
Yeah.
And the achievement pops for getting to that part.
Yeah.
And that's like, what, like an hour and a half, 2 hours in the game?
Almost 2 hours, yep.
1.71% of people had unlocked that achievement.
Wow.
So people are not playing the campaign
or
too much.
People had to work yesterday and couldn't play till they got home.
But I think it's counting everyone who's played the multiplayer.
That's still really
everyone who's played the multiplayer for like the last however many weeks.
Yeah.
So
that's a low number for sure. Yeah.
And even going further into the evening, I was unlocking stuff that I thought was pretty basic, like steal a vehicle or like stick someone with a grenade. It was still like 1.2% of players have unlocked this kind of thing. So I'm not sure what the deal is there.
I don't know that I would spend $60 on this. And here's something also to keep in mind: if you do,
Johnny Hurricane just beat the 4th mission and got a 3% have unlocked this achievement. So it's going up a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, our biter Zach is correct. Achievements pop late on this game.
Interesting.
Like I get like the stuff where it's like, oh, you did this stupid human trick thing. It'll pop minutes later.
Huh. I have all mine turned off, so I don't even know when they pop.
I like to see them. I know because you record footage and stuff. But I like to see that the gem pop up with all the
if I didn't have to use this footage for B-roll, I would absolutely have them turned on. It's a little dopamine hit every time one pops up.
Cinetike says, played the first few hours of Master Chief Collection, didn't like it, feels like I missed the Halo boat. Can this change my mind? Can this game change my heart? Maybe. I think it plays the best of any of the Halos. It feels the best to play.
I mean, the first Halo
multiplayer too
does feel dated now.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I loved Halo when it came. I played a lot. I played Halo 1 probably 3 times on the original Xbox. I played 2 a fair amount. I loved 3. I loved ODST, and I have not been able to get through a single one of these games again on Master Chief Collection. Like I don't think they've aged well.
Yeah,
I think they have. They just feel
archaic.
They feel archaic gameplay wise, and the story is not compelling or plentiful enough to pull me through them.
Yeah,
and I would say that
this is way better.
Way better. And I have had a couple people say, he's like, I've never played Halo. Maybe I should go back and go through that series. I'm like, I don't think you should. I don't think it's gonna hook you. I think they've been surpassed.
Yeah.
They were. It's one of those things where it's like it's hugely influential, and as a result, it has been built on over and over and over. And things you've played since then have been building on what Halo did. And I think going back to Halo, if you don't have nostalgia for it, is going to feel archaic.
This is the best first-person shooter campaign I've played in a long, long time.
This is the best first-person shooter campaign I've played since Titanfall 2.
Infinite Warfare.
Infinite Warfare, Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
Are the only things that come close.
Yep. It's really good. Is it worth $60? I would say no. That's a lot just to play a campaign. The other thing to keep in mind too is if you do not have Game Pass, and look,
that's the thing is you should never have to pay $60 for it.
But just in case, like if you do not have Game Pass, which you absolutely should, even if you just
get it for a month.
This month,
$15, and you got Halo instead of $60.
You'll get Halo Infinite for $15. But if you are adverse to that, you don't want to subscribe to Game Pass for whatever reason, something to keep in mind is for $60. You are really only getting the campaign. And first of all, the campaign isn't even on the disc. Mm-hmm. And so you are only getting the campaign. You get no multiplayer anything for the $60.
Pass,
it doesn't pay for the season pass. It does nothing.
It just unlocks the campaign in the game, which is, let's be honest, as Sterling would say, a live service. Yeah, AAA.
Yeah.
It's didn't go live till 10 no matter what. If you had the disc or not.
Yeah.
Yesterday, 10 a.m. Pacific yesterday.
So it just get Game Pass for a month. Like it's worth it. This campaign's definitely worth $13, $15. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. While you have it, why not play Forza Horizon 5 for the whole month?
Honestly, there's a couple moments where I was playing. I'm like, well, I should keep going because I want to get through this and finish it. Because I should have finished it because I paid for it. And I'm like, no, I didn't. Like it's just moments where I'm like, I got this as part of the Game Pass. That's crazy. They just gave me Halo.
I saw a discussion on the site this week where someone was making the point that they were angry that we say you're not paying for it when you get something on Game Pass. They're like, you are paying for it. You're paying $13 a month. It's like, but
I don't think of it like that.
I don't either.
It's like, do I feel like I paid for the Witcher TV series on Netflix? No, I paid for Netflix.
Right, exactly.
Like I don't feel like I paid for the individual items.
Right.
I'm paying for a subscription.
And how does that math work out? Did I pay like 1/5 of a penny for Halo Infinite if I'm a subscriber for Game Pass?
Or once you total up the hours I play it, like. And what if I also play Forza Horizon this week?
I don't know what the motivation was behind the comment. The person could have been a PlayStation fan.
I mean, it's not free technically, but it feels free in comparison to having to pay $60 a pop
or 70
or 70 or yeah.
Yep. And then I wanted to say before we move on,
you're paying for it in the sense that you're buying a subscription. It gives you access to things, but that's not the same thing as paying for the game. The game costs $70,
right? Or
you did not pay $70.
Yeah. Instead, I paid $57
for a year.
Yeah. And then one thing I want to say before we move on is I want to talk about multiplayer very quickly because I have continued to play it since we talked about it a few episodes ago. It's still great. I still really enjoy it. There needs to be way more maps for Big Team Battle. I literally feel like I'm playing the same 3 maps over and over and over again in Big Team Battle. And the progression is just absurd.
It's like molasses.
It's absurd. I don't know what 343 was thinking. Like they just changed something this week where like your first 5 matches of the day you get double XP and then it goes back to the really slow grind again.
But XP for what?
For the battle pass to unlock stuff in the battle pass, so you don't have to. So you can unlock stuff without paying for it.
So like Fortnite style.
Yeah.
Basically. Okay.
Basically, it's the same business model. It's like you can grind your ass off and get something for free, or you can just pay for it. And I do not feel like that quotient in Halo Infinite is right. And compounding things...
I haven't seen anyone say it feels right.
Right. And compounding things, again, as I said, if you do buy the full cost version at $60, you get nothing.
Yeah, they could have at least given you the first season.
They give you the battle pass. They had to give you the battle pass for $60. That's crazy, dude. Like, so I'm not happy with how they're handling progression, but at the same time, like, it's not like I'm envious. It's not like I see other people out there who have bought the battle pass and have all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, I wish I had that hand armor piece. Like that this game's really not like that. So it does mute the impact of the progression a little bit because really, for me, there's not a lot worth busting my butt to try to unlock. Like once I can choose the color of my Spartan, like I'm pretty much good. Like I don't need like all the other goofy stuff that people. And you can see, look. Hardly anyone has specialized armor. Everyone just looks like a Spartan of it with a different color or maybe a different helmet.
Eventually they will, people get there, but like
will I get there though? Like I don't think I will. Like
also, have you ever that's sort of the thing with any of these customizations. Have you ever looked at another player and be like, "Oh, wow, that's really cool." Like you look at them
in some games I have.
Like very rare. I mean, like some MMOs I've seen stuff where I'm like, "Oh, that's a cool thing they've got." But I know that they grind, they grinded for that stuff for like months.
I can't do.
That's why I'm impressed. This and like, I don't know. Like, and usually it's something where it's like, oh, they're wearing a giant robe that has eagles flying out of it, and their hair is on fire, and it's like nothing like that is really happening here. Yeah. The samurai outfit's cool, but like,
Yep. But look, I am enjoying multiplayer still. It's still fun. Do I think it'll be like my daily driver shooter for the next 8-10 months? Probably not. Does progression have something to do with that? A little bit.
I do think the warthogs are too slippery. They feel a little...
Even by Halo standards?
Yeah, they don't have the I can't describe it except by saying like...
They have no weight.
There's no weight. The old Halos, the warthogs had some grip.
Yeah.
And I feel
they
like...
bite into the road a little bit.
I don't feel like they do that in this.
They definitely feel like they just float along the surface. Yeah, for sure. But I'm still having fun with it. I think if you go in without the expectation, if you're not a big Call of Duty player, you may not even have this expectation. But if you don't have the expectation of I'm going to earn something with every match that I play, then it maybe won't affect you as much. But if you do play a lot of shooters, it is definitely out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and it's probably wise for them to go that route with it because Halo doesn't really support that idea. Like there just isn't that much stuff to earn in Halo. Like, it's not how it works.
Yeah, because they want all the weapons out on the map.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you unlock stuff? You don't. The weapons don't have attachments, so you're not going to be unlocking new attachments.
Yeah.
Like,
it's all just cosmetics.
It is. Yeah. And I don't care about that much.
There's only so many of those things you can put in there.
Yep.
And since they're so tied to the battle pass, they want you to pay money for.
Yeah. Yep. So
I mean, it's a racket, but like at least it feels good to play.
Honestly, if you bought the box version and they gave you the season pass, I probably wouldn't have anything to complain about. Like, it does suck that the progression is slow, but when you reach a new level, I don't get anything that's exciting anyway. Yeah. So it's like I just zone out now at the end of matches and I don't pay attention. Like, I'm like, we won, and that's all I care about. I don't really care about like watching my meter go up because, again,
it doesn't get you anything.
You don't get anything. So it's an interesting release on so many levels, Matt. I mean, this is a precedent here. This is Microsoft's biggest exclusive being released. At least one person hates to hear this, for free. And then this other free-to-play multiplayer component and how they're handling the monetization to try to offset the lost revenue. Like, it's we've never seen this before. So it is a learning experience for me as a journalist covering it, because I've never had to look at a game this way before. But it's good for consumers and players. It's amazing. Like, we both recommend Halo Infinite. If you don't have Game Pass, go get it right now and download Halo Infinite. It is a return to form for Halo. And Matt, I finally feel comfortable that Halo is going to go forward in a positive way.
Yeah, I think they figured it out.
That's huge.
Which is good.
It is huge.
Like, I am excited to go home and play more. Well, I'm not going to go home and play more Halo because the Game Awards are coming on. But after the Game Awards are over, I will play more Halo.
Yeah.
And I honestly didn't think I would be saying that.
Yep. You haven't played a shooter in forever.
I don't play a lot of shooters. I don't care about Halo much anymore.
Yeah.
But Halo 4 and 5, I really didn't like those games.
It really turned. I mean, I did too. And look,
to the point that, I mean, anyone who watched this show knows that when Halo Infinite would pop up on things, I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't care. Like, I always said, Halo Infinite's going to have to really, nail what Halo used to be to get me back on board, and they did.
And it does.
Well done, 343. I mean, it only took you 3 games, but they got there.
Yeah, my big complaint about 4 and 5 were that the mission objectives were just dumb.
Yeah.
All of them were like, kill everything and flip a switch.
Yep.
And don't get me wrong, they get a lot of mileage out of the flipping the switch animation in this game,
but you know
too,
what?
But
After I flip that switch and I turn around and fight some elites, that helps a lot than having to just unload 14 clips into a Promethean I don't care about. Like Halo to me at the core is Master Chief versus an elite.
Yeah.
Like, that is Halo to me.
Yeah.
And, like, that came back, and the elites have been beefed up. They're faster.
Yeah.
Like, fighting an elite is very different from fighting a brute, even more than it used to be.
Yeah.
And I like that a lot.
Yep.
When I'm fighting an elite, I have to change my tactics.
Yeah.
And that's really good.
Yeah. It's really good, people. It's a great game. I'm really happy to see it. Congrats to 343. This franchise used to be near and dear to my heart, and I'd fallen off over the last couple entries. I
really felt like Halo wasn't even part of the conversation anymore.
It wasn't, and now I feel like it is again.
Yeah,
and that's a big deal. It's a big deal for Microsoft too.
Yeah,
and it's crazy. The rumor is that they cut. According to Schreier, they cut like 30% of the game out.
He said 2/3.
2/3.
He said 2/3 of the game.
It's crazy.
I mean, and feel free to recycle that and give us more, content drops for that. I'll keep playing it. I'll build that map out. I'd love to see that.
Let it keep growing. Absolutely. So there you go. That's Halo Infinite. That's 2 enthusiastic thumbs up from Matt and I. I would not be okay buying it for $60. That's where I draw the line, because the campaign is kind of wrapping up for me, and I've probably played about 10 hours, I'm guessing. I feel like I'm at the final act. So $60 for 10 to 15 hours, depending on your skill level, that's a tough ask. But just subscribe to Game Pass.
Big Smoke 82 asks how long the campaign is, and most people seem to be saying it's 10 to 11 hours if you do minimal exploration.
I've played like 9 or 10 hours, and I feel like the two things that they have been talking about the whole game, I've accomplished them. So I feel like I'm on that final stretch. So,
and yes, El Guapo, I think this is what Halo should do from now. This sort of half open world thing, I think is their format now.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions about Halo Infinite, feel free to put them in the chat right now. We'll answer a bunch of them. This is obviously the big topic for this week's show, and we're willing to dedicate some time to it if you guys have questions about it. Some of you guys may not even own an Xbox Series console yet, or a gaming PC, and you may be wondering, like, is it worth it to buy a Series X to play this with Game Pass?
I wouldn't buy a console for it.
Would you buy a PC instead?
No. In part because of some of the stuff I saw this week about Game Pass on PC being a nightmare. Like, have to reinstall Windows nightmare, which I didn't know about because I don't use that on my C drive. But
Streetbreaker has a question. How long have y'all been gamers?
Longer than you've been alive, probably.
Probably twice as long as you've been alive, based on demographics on Twitch, would be my guess.
1979.
I have been a gamer since the first ever video game.
Yeah, I saw an Astro's Machine at a Farrell's restaurant in San Mateo, and when I was 3 years old, and I knew. The instant I saw the TV you could play, I knew.
I got a Skeet, which is a game where you just shoot a white dot that flies around the screen.
I've seen that.
And Pong. It was it was a whole console just for Skeet and Pong. That was my first gaming console.
One of those rip-offs of the Odyssey.
Yeah. We've been playing a long time, my friend. A really long time. Any other questions about Halo?
you need to play
Scorpio's Finest. Do we need to play
previous-
previous Halo titles to enjoy Infinite? Well,
No, but you probably do need it to understand what the hell's going on. Like,
I've played every Halo, and I was still confused at the beginning of the game. They do slowly kind of explain what's going on, but again, there's a 6-month gap from the end of Halo 5 to the beginning of Halo Infinite. And so you have to rely on the game to fill you in on what happened during those 6 months, and it does it slowly.
and it doesn't do a lot to make you care.
It does
about what happened in those 6 months.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of stuff where it's, like a Spartan will die, and like Master Chief will be like all and like be sad and take a shit, and like,
Sucks for you. Thanks for the power up.
But like, yes, I know it's supposed to be sad because some of these Spartans are Spartans that he grew up with, as
Trained with,
after being kidnapped and been turned into Halsey's experiment and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they do touch on that, but like, I don't have any emotional connection to that.
Yeah, me
I mean, I read the book that comes from, and it's like, it's fine. I guess like it's sort of like Ender's Game meets X-Men or something. But like, it's just the idea of Master Chief being like depressed that his friends are dying is just like, really?
That's a hard sell.
He doesn't really. I mean, not that I need to see his face necessarily, but like every other time, whenever anyone else expresses any kind of doubt or anything, he says like, it's like the mission has changed. We gotta go.
They wrote him well, though. And
I mean, he is who he is, but
they
like
nail him.
But that's what I mean is like, I'm sure he has a rich emotional internal life, but I have a hard time believing it just off of the couple of like, when the sad, we listen to a lot of Marty O'Donnell music plays, and music's good, but it's not quite there. It's just kind of cheesy most of the time. But I would say that no matter how much you know about Halo, you are going to enjoy pointing and shooting in this game.
Yeah. The gameplay is the loop is really fun. It's addictive for sure.
And you might, I guess it probably helps if you played the last few Halos to understand how much better this is.
That's true. Some people may not realize
that
how
it
far
may
it's
not
fallen.
feel all that different or great compared to if you've played a lot of like, I don't know, Destiny or even Battlefield and Call of Duty in recent years. But
if you've been playing Halo.
If you've been playing Halo, this is a revolution.
Absolutely. We have a couple more questions. Mermelson, have you tried other difficulties? How's Legendary? I think the default normal difficulty is perfect.
I think normal's pretty solid. I would not try Legendary on this without a co-op partner.
It's very well tuned to the default difficulty setting.
I definitely wouldn't do it if I didn't have the co-op respawn ability.
Yep.
Which is also kind of true of all the Halo games' Legendary settings.
Yep.
Like playing Legendary solo is you're just trying to raise your stress levels at that point.
From El Guapo 3385, is there a difference in the frames per second between the multiplayer and campaign modes? Does it change the feel of the game overall? So when you play the campaign, you can choose to set it as quality or performance. Quality, I'm playing on quality.
I think I am too. I'm playing on whatever the default was. I didn't think to
it's
look.
quality. Yeah. And so
it's fine.
It's prettier, but the frame rate isn't as fast.
Yeah, I think it's 30.
Yeah. And if you set for the performance setting, then you get the frames per second. So you have a choice. In both of them, honestly, I couldn't even tell that the quality was less than 60 frames.
Yeah, usually it's not. I mean, same with like, I didn't mess with the settings on this because it didn't occur to me. I don't care. Like Halo campaign runs at 30. I'm used to it. But like on like Forza Horizon 5, I switched between the two, and like I couldn't.
It's hard to tell.
I couldn't tell the difference between performance and quality, so I just went with performance on that because racing games should be 60.
We never talked about the visuals in this game, really.
Yeah.
Which I will admit.
Which might say something.
Yeah, I'm a little disappointed in them.
I think they look fine.
They're fine.
That's about as far as it goes.
But they're not like.
They look better than that first reveal.
They do. But there are moments where it looks like that first reveal too.
Here and there. I mean, one of the reasons that first reveal looked like it was because of how they are simulating the light realistically in places, and realistic light doesn't look too good dramatically. So like there's a reason films don't look like reality, so they had to kind of emphasize that a little bit, and so now it looks a little less realistic, but it looks better. It looks to our eyes, it looks more dramatic and more contrasty, and that's better to most people.
Part of the problem is it's Halo, and so inevitably you go inside these huge steel installations.
Big steel corridors and big open pine forests, and that's pretty much it.
There's a lot of repetitive textures in the game,
and you don't even really get like great suns because it's a Halo ring, so there's no weather, there's no
there's no cycle,
there's
like
no
light cycle.
There's no natural world to really simulate.
I've often wondered, like, how does all the wildlife get there?
I think the implication. I mean, some of it's experimental in the book. Some of it's like intentionally like seeded by
They
the
take it
Forerunners.
there, yeah.
But some of it's just like the idea that like life
finds a way.
Well, sort of, but yeah, I mean, life is essentially the same as like fungus growing on an apple you left out in the yard. You know, like the idea being if you leave anything with enough oxygen and carbon in the universe with sunlight, you will get life on it, whether you like it. It'll be like maggots. You know, it's like God, like the idea. You know, there's almost an idea, especially with the Halo rings being an eradication device. You know, the Halo rings are basically a sterilization device to sterilize the galaxy. Sort of like with the Reapers in Mass Effect. It's like that idea of life as a nuissance.
Right.
That as organic life is something that, like you can't stop it, but you gotta clean the bathroom once in a while. You know, like that is a cool thing to me. I think that's a fun idea. Halo doesn't really do much with it, but you know.
Vincent says quality is 60 frames, performance is 120. So there you go. That's why playing it on quality is still great because it's still running at 60 frames per second.
I have not found Craig's Memorial.
What'd you say?
Mitchell is alive. I said you find Craig's Memorial. I've not found Craig's Memorial, but I know it's in there.
Yeah, it's not. The game's not a stunner.
No,
it has its moments. Like the one boss fight we were talking about earlier. It takes place in this area with all red lights and tons of fog, and it's dramatic and it does make an impact. But like the Demon Souls remake, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart,
it's still got to run on Xbox One.
Miles Morales, all those games destroy this game.
Yeah, well, because there's no ray tracing that I've noticed.
I don't even know if that would help it, honestly.
Maybe not.
Maybe a little.
It looks like what it needs to look like. It's fine. Like
it's serviceable, but it's not going to blow you away.
It looks nice, but it doesn't blow me away like Tsushima, or even if you're limited to not PS5 only, like Tsushima or God of War with the upgrade, the 60 frames upgrade.
Agreed.
But
it's serviceable and it looks fine.
But Craig is in there somewhere. Yeah, we'll find him. Craig,
right.
I do like that on Reset Era. The title of the official thread for Halo Infinite is the assassination of Craig the Brute by the Coward Master Chief. Like that's very clever. That's
pretty good. So there you go. That's Halo Infinite. I think we got to all your questions at this point. Mitchell is alive. Does the 30 frames per second animations bug you? Is your HDR busted in cutscenes? My TV has not spit out any HDR errors.
No, I haven't had any HDR. I mean, I certainly am aware of HDR errors after that GTA collection.
Right.
But no, it looks fine.
Yeah, it's working fine on my LG.
Haven't had an issue with that, which is a little unusual because if there's going to be a system that the HDR is screwy on, it's going to be the Xbox. They crush the blacks constantly.
Yeah.
But this one looks fine. I haven't had a problem.
Yep. Okay, that's it for Halo Infinite. It's time to move on. We're going to talk next about someone we just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Jason Schreier. He's been a busy guy this week. So today he broke the Halo story we were talking about earlier about the development of Halo Infinite and how they ended up, basically they had that point that they came to where they were like, this game is headed in the wrong direction. They ended up chopping 2/3 of it to get the game out. Another story that he posted this week at Bloomberg is that PlayStation, after all our discussions on here wondering, is in fact working on a Game Pass killer. No idea what the name of it is yet, but it's
definitely not going to kill Game Pass. But
no, it's not. But and then the other thing too is that it's not
day one.
It looks like it may get there eventually, and there's
for some stuff.
Really, the problem though is that it's not a new product. They're taking old products and kind of rebranding them or mashing them together to create this new service. Basically,
you need a real serious relaunch campaign for that.
You do. Yep.
Like they can't just quietly do this and hope people notice. Like this needs to be a thing they promote.
I think it will.
They better because they've failed to do that in the past sometimes.
You know what, Matt? I just finally heard an ad for Xbox All Access. I was listening to a podcast yesterday while I was working, and an ad came on for All Access. And if you guys don't remember, that is like the layaway plan for Xbox.
Oh, right.
Where you can spend like $20 like a month or whatever, and get a console and get Game Pass and get Xbox Live. This PlayStation product that they're working on to compete with Game Pass basically merges PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus into one service.
That's a good point, Fox and Crow. Between the lower third and the subject, he thought Jason Schreier died.
Oh.
I know. He is still
and we're all alive, too. We are not like simulations yet. Give us another 10 years, and we may be. But essentially, it's just merging PlayStation Now with PlayStation Plus into one service. Right now, it's codenamed Spartacus. And it's a 3-tiered plan. And we'll talk. Actually, I want you to share with me what you think each tier should be priced at. So the first tier is called Basic. It's just PlayStation Plus. So it's basically what we have right now.
Yeah.
So that's smart because you don't want to anger people who have already been subscribing to your service and getting X amount of whatever for X amount of dollars. And so basically, if you like PlayStation Plus, which is, you're getting a few free games a month and you can play online, which is pretty much all you get, and you're happy with what you're getting for what you're paying there, that's not going to go away. That will be the basic plan. The middle tier adds PS5 and PS4 games to the old PlayStation Plus tier. Now, that's a little confusing to me because I'm already getting that with my basic plan. There's already that library of PS4 and PS5 games that you can go in and play.
I would imagine that's going to go away.
Isn't that a problem?
Probably. I mean, I assume you'll be able to keep it if you already added it to your library and you keep subscribing.
You think it'll be grandfathered in?
Maybe. I mean, I think so. I don't think they'll take it away if you've been subscribing all this time, but it feels like maybe if you're new, you're going to need to be part of this new service.
What is that called?
I want to say it's called Instant Game Collection or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Right now, that's a part of PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
And according to Schreier, that's going to be pulled out of that and then shoved into this middle tier. And then the top tier, the most expensive tier, includes a retro games library of classics from the PS1, the PS2, the PS3, and PSP. You also get extended demos with the top tier, and you get PlayStation Now. And the PlayStation Now branding is going away. Is that smart?
I don't think it matters. Yeah, probably, because no one knows what that is.
Yeah.
They didn't push it. Yeah, PlayStation Now has been sort of a poor man's Game Pass for a while now, and even I didn't know that until like a year ago, because they didn't tell anybody.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that you could download games.
In fact, you can download and install games.
I think on this show, there was at least 2 different times where we forgot.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know. I literally had no idea.
Yeah, that you could actually
They never fucking told us.
The messaging's been terrible.
They were terrible about getting out what Now was in the first place, and they were terrible at communicating changes to Now.
Yeah.
Which is funny for something called Now.
Yeah. The irony. Let's go through these plans and figure out what they should be priced. So let's say the basic is PlayStation Plus minus that other library. Doesn't that mean that we should pay less for the basic plan than what we're paying for PlayStation Plus right now?
I don't think they're going to see it that way.
I mean, isn't really the middle tier PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Plus?
PlayStation Plus exists now, pretty much.
So, rightfully, the basic plan should be less. $30 a year, like Nintendo.
It won't be.
You don't think?
I think it'll be whatever PlayStation Plus costs now. That will be what the basic costs.
Wow, I think people will be pissed because you're paying the same and you're losing the PS4 and PS5 games.
I don't think we will lose it if we're already subscribers. But I think if you're a new subscriber, you aren't going to get that.
Okay, that would be a good way to handle it to keep fans from getting really angry.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to lose any of the games you have from that already. But if you're coming into it new, I think you are. Or anything they would add to that in the future, you wouldn't get that on the basic.
Yeah.
But if say you already have, God of War from that, I think you would keep God of War in your library.
Okay. The middle tier, which is basically you're getting what you're getting now from PlayStation Plus, that should stay the price of PlayStation Plus. But how much do you think they're going to bump up the price of it?
I think it's going to be probably like $20 more.
A year.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is.
I would not pay that.
What is it now, 60?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be 80 and 100.
Wow. Oh, wait, so basic is going to be 80?
No, I think the basic's going to be 60.
60.
Middle tier is going to be 80. And maximum is going to be 100. $100 a year.
100.
Platinum edition, whatever they're going to call it,
Would you pay $100 for that?
No.
All the stuff we talked about, plus the library of PS1, PS2, PS3, and PSP games, extended demos.
It would kind of depend.
Are they going to pull demos away from the rest of us for that tier?
That would be dumb. Maybe
be
longer.
Awful, dude.
Maybe games you could play longer. If they're timed, you get 4 hours on PlayStation Plus versus 2 hours on Basic or whatever. I don't know. That seems like a weird thing to do.
That would also piss
people
off.
But also that tier would have to. I mean, look, I have most of the PlayStation legacy stuff I want.
Me too.
Already backwards.
Yeah.
I bought.
That's why I bought a PS3.
Well, also because that too, but also in terms of digitals, I bought all that stuff on PS3 and PS4, and that works on PS5 because that selection's fairly limited, and anything I was interested in has already gone on sale 14 times, and I've paid $5 for it. I don't need it for free through an extra subscription fee. You'd have to really robustly start supporting the legacy content in a way that Sony just hasn't for years.
Yep.
Like, you want to get every PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 game on there, sure. Like, we'll talk about that. But like, you're just like saying like the stuff you could previously buy is gonna be there now for you to play for free. It's like, well, I already have
right.
The old PS1 and PS2 and PS3 games I wanted on PS3.
Yeah.
I can just turn on my PS3 and play that.
Yep.
And if you made those compatible with PS4, PS5, I'd be interested. But I might also be more likely to just buy them.
Yeah.
So depending on the pricing.
Yep, totally get that. And that's pretty much all the details we have right now, other than the fact that Sony is going to expand the resources that it's currently putting into its cloud gaming efforts. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that means. Probably just going to buy a bunch more server farms and beef up the infrastructure. That'd be my guess. And then the crazy thing is, according to Jason Schreier, it's launching this spring, 2022. That's fast.
Yeah. Or actually kind of late.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're trying to compete with Game Pass, it's late. Yeah, because it has been like 2.
I mean, it doesn't seem like something we should probably hear about too long before it goes live. Frankly, I mean, why would you?
Well, we were just saying that like they need to market it more, so maybe they should start talking about. Maybe
disagree.
Maybe they announce it in 3 hours at the Game Awards.
Maybe I 100% disagree. The way to market this is to blitz it and put it out. Because otherwise people are going to forget because no one gives a shit.
Oh, got you.
Like, you can't try to build hype for a live service. I can't do her accent right today. I don't know what. Yeah. I can usually do a real good Jim Sterling. I'm just off today on that for some reason.
Because it's early. We're here an hour earlier, Matt.
Triple A live service. That's all right. It was all right.
That's pretty close.
Yeah. But it's not something you can really have people look forward to. You know, you have to you'd be like, this is a thing. It's happening. You got to go right now. Do it. Go right now. It's out. Yeah. It's done. Like, go right now. And then blitz it. Like, just blitz it all at once and have it out that week and call it a day. Because you can't. No one's going to sit around anticipating PS Plus, whatever they're going to call it.
Yeah.
That's not. It's not a game. It's not a thing you can really build that kind of. Nintendo did the same thing. They, we found out about their idiotic, N64
Nintendo
thing
Online,
a week before that happened or something.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you make a good point. I just want to keep what I have.
It's real far away from Black Friday, so no one gets any weird deals on it. So, yeah.
I just want to keep what I have. Like,
I think that will.
To me, paying the $60 a year to play online to get, when it's all said and done, like 30 or 40 free games.
Yeah, none of which I think I've even played in the last 2 years.
Actually, this year, I do not know if I've played a single PlayStation Plus
I definitely haven't.
I claim them every.
I get it. I had a library, but then I don't.
Which I'm wondering, why do I do that if I'm never going to play them?
Yeah, it's free.
I guess. Why not?
One more thing to scroll through.
It's true.
When you're looking for the game you want to install.
Yeah. So, Matt, do you think this is going to work? Do you think this is going to help PlayStation combat Game Pass?
No.
Or is it too late? Is it game over?
If you're not getting God of War day one on this thing, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying it's going to be a failure or whatever, but it's just like, they got to do something. But
that was one thing that wasn't really mentioned in the report. I mean,
they're not going to do that.
They talked about Microsoft, the fact that it does offer day one exclusives.
One of the reasons Microsoft started doing that is because no one gave a shit. They released Forza and God of War or Gears of War and Halo, and it was getting harder and harder to get people to be excited about those things, and maybe they'd be more excited if they could just load it up and play it, and we get the multiplayer to be healthy because everyone got no barrier to entry and da 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 da. But in the meantime, Sony can sell 10 million, 15 million copies of Spider-Man or God of War or what. They don't need to give it away to get people interested.
That's true.
And it's more in their interest to let people just buy it. And I will.
I do wonder, too, as Microsoft gets to, 3 years from now, when all these studios that it's purchased...
Yeah, y'all going to be that willing to give away Avowed?
...are bearing fruit.
Or Elder Scrolls?
Do you regret, then, that you did this? Because let's be honest, this was a desperation move. It's genius, and it's smart, and it's working.
Well, you know what the first big test, I think, is going to be? Starfield.
Yeah.
Is Starfield going to be day one Game Pass?
It is. Yeah, they already said it is.
So.
Yeah.
But, that's going to be where they find out whether it's worth it or not still.
Elder Scrolls 6, to me, will be the big one.
Elder Scrolls 6, I mean, that'll be a long time.
Because that will be 3 or 4 years.
But I also think, you're going to see...
Starfield's next
year. You're going to have to
year.
see what they do with the next Gears. You're going to have to see what they do with the next Avowed, with Avowed, with Hellblade 2. There's stuff there that you could get people to pay retail for. It just depends how dedicated they are to the idea that having mass numbers of subscribers to this thing is more lucrative than selling 10 million copies of something. And they might be right. I'm sure they got the math in there somewhere. But like, if you can get Elder Scrolls 6 day one Game Pass 5 years from now, or whenever that happens, clearly that is how Microsoft is going to roll forever until some massive sea change happens.
I mean, it could be that at a certain point Microsoft realizes, like, oh my God, what have we done? Mm-hmm. Like, now we have the library, we have the studios, we have a great exclusive coming out every 3 months now on our platforms, and we can't monetize them anymore because we went down this path. Mm-hmm. And I don't think is there any way that you go back? Is there any way to go back from this? You can't. Really.
It would be a very careful PR situation, that's for sure, to break the news that Elder Scrolls 6 is not going to be for free.
Ooh, people be pissed. Because they're going to start marketing it as day one on Game Pass. When they start actually marketing the game and they acknowledge
Well,
that
if they do that, then they're stuck.
Yeah.
You can't backtrack on that.
It's crazy.
So I guess pay attention whenever they start finally talking about Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah.
Do they call it out for Game Pass?
Yeah, because it's interesting. We're saying the fact that Sony won't allow its exclusives day one on whatever the new service is a detriment right now to competing with Game Pass. But do you want to beat Game Pass, or do you just want to make as much money as possible?
Yeah, I don't know.
And so Sony half-stepping now, it may doom this new service it has, but in the long run, it still could be the right strategy to do what it's doing, selling the box copies for $70 a month.
I don't think Sony needs to compete with Game Pass.
It doesn't need to. It's the leader.
It's doing fine.
Yeah, better than fine.
Yeah.
So anyway, again, according to Jason Schreier, launching in spring 2022. Interested what the chat seems to think about this, if they're interested, because the Xbox gamer has now been trained for Game Pass, and they're cool with it. I'm just wondering, a PlayStation owner who has never subscribed to Game Pass and is like, it sounds cool, but I'm not a fan of Xbox exclusives or whatever, so maybe it doesn't work for them. I'm wondering if they would be happy if PlayStation did this. Vincent says, remember when they tried to increase the price of Xbox Live and backtrack within 12 hours? That's a good point. Because the fans were like, what? What do you think you're doing?
What?
Yeah. Well, they basically eliminated Xbox
And hopefully
Live.
Sony's paying attention to that when they're thinking about how they're pricing this.
Yeah.
Nintendo didn't.
Yeah. And Vincent says that would be a tempest in a teapot compared to what ending Game Pass would be. Yeah. Because that would be the ultimate bait and switch.
Yeah. Well, there's no way to make Elder Scrolls 6 non-day one and not have it come off as like, we know you suckers are going to pay for this one.
Yeah,
like
exactly. Yeah.
And like, there's no way to make that a good look.
Yeah.
So they are committed to it, but also at the same time, you're like, it's not like we haven't seen Microsoft make really dumb decisions in the past. They could try it. Like that, the doubling the price thing was a good example of that.
Erebus Jones says...
The gardener could have told you that wasn't going to go over well.
Erebus Jones says it all depends on price. As long as it's not a ripoff like Nintendo, this is great news. Okay. Pot F2 says publishers only get half the revenue from retail, so it might not be as much of a loss as you think. Mm-hmm. That's still a
lot. But a lot of those sales a lot of those sales for Sony now are digital.
That's true. So that's absolutely true.
More and more every time.
Cinetyke, I've always been PC first for like 30 plus years. This new Game Pass on PC plus Sony console has been heaven for me these past 2 years. So he's saying that like he was never a console gamer. He got an Xbox and got Game Pass, and now he has a PlayStation, and the whole world has opened up for him. I mean, if you get Game Pass Ultimate, you have it for both your PC and your Xbox. So yeah, it works great.
Yeah, I guess as the chat has pointed out, the advantage of Elder Scrolls 6 keeping it to Game Pass is it's the only place you can get it.
Yeah,
it's not like you can go buy it for PlayStation.
Ammo Clip 20, but it's not like Elder Scrolls 6 isn't exclusive to Game Pass. I don't understand that statement. It's a double negative.
I think that's a mistake. It's supposed to be. It's not like it is exclusive because then they say sure a lot of people will still pay $60 for it.
Will they? I guess we'll find out with Halo.
Yeah.
How many people are going to pay $60 for that? It'll be interesting to watch.
I don't know. I mean, I probably would buy Elder Scrolls. Like I'd probably just to have it.
As many times as you've played Skyrim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Still playing it.
Yeah. I just started playing it again.
No, I got a weird thing in my head about like maybe I should try Oblivion again.
That is a weird thing in your head, Matt. Absolutely. So anyway, there you go. We don't know what the name of the service is going to be yet, but it does sound like PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus are going away. It's weird to have to
becoming
rebrand
some weird
that
hybrid
stuff
thing.
so late in the game. But
my guess is it's going to be called PlayStation Plus with like added things on it.
Yeah.
Added like PlayStation Plus, basic,
plus.
PlayStation Plus. I think you're right. The middle one will be PlayStation Plus.
Yeah.
The bottom one will be PlayStation Basic plus Basic, and the top one will be like PlayStation Plus
Platinum
Legacy or Platinum
Premium or whatever.
Yeah, like all access.
We've been through all that verbiage with subscriptions on Sifted, so
yeah,
we've been down that road already. But yeah, if it is indeed coming in spring,
PlayStation Plus Champion Edition.
Yeah, if it is indeed coming in spring, we should hear a lot more about it very soon. And I will say this: Jason Schreier very rarely wrong. So
yeah,
when he reports something, I usually take it as fact, and it has not burned me yet. So it is what it is. All right, let's move on. We're gonna talk next about one of Matt's favorite genres, the space shooter. Having known you for many years and co-hosted this show with you, I have over time gleaned that space shooters are probably your top 3 genre.
You figure that out, huh?
Yeah. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I would say it's action RPGs, space sims, and fighting games.
Fighting
my
games.
top 3.
Yep. And
not necessarily in that order.
Yeah. And this week, is it an indie game?
I don't think so, because it's
like
Deep Silver.
Borderline, yeah.
Deep Silver published. I think it is sort of pretty indie, though. It's scrappy. Let's put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. It's a new space shooter from Deep Silver called Chorus. Initially, when they announced it, it was CHORVS.
Yeah, it still is in the
logo.
Oh, it is?
It's still stylized that way?
Still stylized. I bet it's Chorus. Yeah.
Yeah. And it is basically what I've not
the
played.
R looks weird, too.
Yeah. I've not played a lick of this, but just from working on Sifted, like I know about this game. And it seems like it tries to streamline the genre, which will make it appeal to me a lot more.
It is very much an arcade shooter. In fact, I will preface this by saying, not exactly, because there's some elements of this that we'll get into. This game is what Star Fox should be now.
Oh, wow.
If Nintendo just took the format of Chorus and made Star Fox with it, it would sell 10 million copies.
Really?
I'll tell you that right now. If you just let people fly around and be Star Fox, this is what Star Fox should become.
How does this game work?
So, they basically, this is not Wing Commander. This is an open world-ish,
open galaxy,
open sector, let's call it, action game.
Okay.
It is very driven by the idea that there's no realistic physics in this. It is just arcade flying and shooting. And over the course of the game, you upgrade your character and your ship to give you incredibly unfair advantages over the enemies. And it's a lot of fun. So here's the thing about this game. So the game takes place in a universe where there is a cult in control of everything, like a totalitarian cult called the Circle.
Okay.
And your character, what's her name? Nala, I think it is. I can't remember. Nara? I can't remember her name. She has a non-real sci-fi name. She is what's called, I believe, is an unmarked or a marked or something like that. And she was an elite soldier for the Circle. Mm-hmm. She was one of the most. She was
in the cult.
She was in the cult. She was one of the leaders. She was Darth Vader, basically. Okay. She was
second in command.
She was kind of a Sith Lord. Like so. Oh. So she has psychic powers, and is psychically bonded with her space fighter, which has an AI. Her ship. In fact, the relationship between her and the ship gets real weird sometimes.
Like sexual? Really?
There's some boundaries here.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
Okay.
And so at some point in the past, I think 7 years ago, what you're seeing here is she was ordered to use her powers to destroy a planet that would not join the. So
wouldn't join
Circle,
the cult.
No, the cult. That's what chorus means. Is the chorus is all the members of the cult, all the worlds of the cult singing together in chorus, and
it's
that's
like space fascism.
So that's what they say when they're one of their like greeting their mantra things is in chorus. It's like you all have to fall in line, and if you don't fall in line, we basically destroy your planet. She did that and couldn't deal with it and left.
Okay.
And she ditches her ship in an asteroid, in a hollow asteroid, and goes to this place called the Enclave, which is like one of the last bastions of free people, and helps them out for like 7 years. And as the game begins. Basically, the circle's coming back and is going to come and kill them all. And she realizes as they start staging attacks out in these outer rim areas that she has to be herself again. She has to go reclaim her powers and reclaim her ship. And the ship is very irritated that she left him for 7 years.
Interesting.
Which is a very interesting
jilted
situation.
lover.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that.
there.
There's absolutely an element to that.
Interesting.
It's weird. But it's interesting. The writing is not amazing, but the world is fascinating. Like the writing is sort of Halo level turgid prose stuff where you're like, okay. And here's the thing. There's a lot of cosmic horror in this game.
Really?
Like the psychic stuff taps into like a horrific undercurrent of reality, and like it's sort of like the chaos stuff in Warhammer, where like the Chaos Marines like tap into the warp and stuff like that. There's some of that to this, and you are playing with forces you can't necessarily control and understand. And there's like her other self, her like psychic self is constantly whispering to her as you're playing, like in
internal
Hellblade,
narration,
like in Hellblade, like you remember like in Hellblade where there's all the other voices. Yeah. There's something like that in this.
Oh, okay.
And beyond that, so that's what's kind of what the story is, and you're sort of like people are trying to adjust the idea that like and once you get your ship back, everyone knows that ship is a circle fighter, cult ship, and like. You go rescue people, and they're like, "Don't kill us! Don't kill!" And they're like, "No, I'm with you." They're like, "We don't believe you, but we're still gonna go.
We'll let you rescue us." Yeah.
And people asking if it's playable in VR. It is not, and I would not want to play this in VR.
Why? Well, I wouldn't.
Because look at it. It's not first person. You are controlling speed with the left stick, and you are controlling direction with the right stick. It's basically first person shooter in that regard, and.
It looks like Descent in this part.
A little bit, yeah. But it's very snappy. It's very quick. And so the abilities you have, when you start out with a scan ability, it like lets you kind of psychically know where your objectives are and like collectibles and stuff, and that's fine. But you quickly get other abilities, including a slide. So you hold left bumper and you can turn on a dime and keep your momentum, so you can slide past stuff and like broadside it or get around a corner, like you basically hairpin in the ship. And then the best one, the best power she has is called what is it called? It's called Jump. I think it's called Jump. But you can use it to jump past obstacles. But the main thing you use it for is you can teleport directly behind an enemy ship.
Oh, so that's huge.
So you can
in a dogfighting. So
one of the coolest things you can do in this game is when the enemies come at you, you can do the head-to-head thing. Use your laser. You have 3 weapons. You have a Gatling gun, which just has general kinetic damage, lasers, which are very effective against shields, and missiles, which are good against armor. So it's kind of there's a paper, rock, scissors thing going on. As they're coming at you, you hit them with the lasers, take their shields down, hit the B button to teleport behind them, and by the time you've teleported, your lasers have recharged, and they're done with shields. You blow them away. So it's like teleport, boom, they're already dead, and it's one of the most satisfying things I've ever done in a space game.
Wow,
it's really
that's
good.
Great.
There's a big open area. There's like 7 or 8. There's jump gates, so it's not. It's I guess sort of like you're like a Destiny thing or something. Big open zones. But you have to use a jump gate to get to other zones. So there's like 7 or 8 of them, I think. I think it takes place in one solar system, but you jump to different areas. Huge open areas, and you go to a map. You go find.
Is there stuff to do in those areas?
Yeah, you go
it's
find.
It's not just empty space.
You can go find like installations and bases and things, and every base tends to have a side mission. So you go. There's a distress call, and you gotta go help find. You use your psychic thing to find a.
Do you ever go on foot in this game?
Never.
Always in the ship.
You're always in the ship. You get on foot in cutscenes, but you never when you're never in gameplay.
Okay.
So you fly around and you can help people, and there's like hunt guys, and there's random missions that'll pop up. Like you come along, and suddenly guys will pop out of nowhere, and you can go kill them if you want. You get like rewards for that. You upgrade the ship by paying money for things. There's like a bunch of mods you can plug in. There's 3 mod slots. You can upgrade all the weapons. Completing missions and finding salvage can get you hull upgrades and shield upgrades, which make you more powerful. And you have a repair bot that can instantly repair the whole ship instantly, and then you have a cooldown on that. So it's like kind of your emergency get out of jail free card. Beyond that, that's pretty much the game.
What is the part? What's stripped down? Other than it's not like a first-person sim while you're flying.
It's really just that. It plays more like, I would say it
more
plays more
arcadey.
akin, it plays more akin to Star Fox or Rogue Squadron than it does to Wing Commander or X-Wing.
But the design itself isn't like chopped down and made more simple.
I mean, there's a lot to it, to what you can do. Like there's definite, like, early on you're just blowing ships up and that's easy, but you get there's things, vultures, which are armored ships. They are fully shielded from the front and they throw mines out constantly.
Okay.
The only way to really hit them is to get behind them, which is much harder before you get the teleport thing.
Yeah,
so you got to do the teleport thing, hit them from behind, but then their defenses will kick in. You got to get out of there before they rip your shields apart.
I mean, Star Fox is a lot about just getting behind the enemy.
Yeah, and
That's
then they start
any dogfighting game is really.
They start doing things where, like, they'll do mixed tactics where you have to fight those guys, but you're trying to escort people to a jump gate or to a space station, and the vultures are the ones that are throwing mines going to hurt the capital ship, so you have to get them first. But you've got 14 fighters on your tail, but you can boost with the left trigger, which makes you much harder to hit, but it also makes you much faster, so it's harder to aim. There's a lot of basically balance and give and take on how the combat works, and you will get used to, like, you can slow down to turn around and get them back in your sights, but you're taking the boost up, so they're going to have an easier time hitting you. If you want to get more advanced, you hold the left bumper and do the slide and make that turn that way, and you're still going fast enough that they can't hit you. And then so doing things, you've got all these level up systems. So you can, every time you use abilities in a certain way, you do a certain number of those, and it'll level up to the next level. So, like, the leveling up the slide thing makes you more resistant to damage when you're sliding.
Now, do you have all the ship's abilities out of the gate, and you're just boosting them, or you have to earn those even?
You have some, but you have to earn the other weapons. You have to get your psychic abilities back because she's given those up, and she has to, like, go. And, like, that's where the cosmic horror stuff comes in, where, like, the first ability you get back is the teleport, and you run into a spiritual personification of guilt. That cannot be stopped or killed, and you have to outrun it through like a trench run, basically.
Running from guilt.
Out of the facility.
Something we all do.
Yeah. Using the teleport to teach you how the teleport works, basically. And the thing is, like, it's real smooth in how all that works. It all comes together very well, and like, that part of the world is compelling, even if the writing isn't so much. I will also say it's got some glitches here and there. So there's stuff where, like, things don't trigger all the time. I got to restart the thing. There's cutscenes where pretty regularly a cutscene will kick in and there's no sound. And I have to reboot the game.
You have to reboot it for
I
it
actually
to
have
come
to
back?
quit the game and start it again to get the. And it's always.
What are you playing this on?
Xbox Series X.
Okay.
And it's always done it when I rebooted it, but it's annoying because, like, you got to redo the mission, basically.
Oh, by the way, playing Halo Infinite last night, I got to a very important cutscene and a very important moment in that cutscene, and my TV cut out.
Blacked out.
Playing Halo Infinite. Yep.
It's done that on this game a couple of times. Very bad in a dogfight.
Oh, yeah. I missed a huge plot point.
Yeah.
They got to get that figured out, man.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't know if it's an LG problem or an Xbox problem.
I've seen that with almost everyone with any kind of 4K TV.
They need to put their heads together and get it sorted.
That's been there since the last
inexcusable.
game. That's been there since Xbox One.
That's crazy.
My One X did that too.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't have one of those.
Worse than the new one.
Why can't they figure it out?
I don't know. It's because everyone's setup is different. It's probably part
weird.
Of it. And some of it's just like the dynamic. I think the dynamic resolution switching is part of that. And there might not be anything you can really do about it. That might be a TV problem.
Right.
That might be how LG.
That's why I said it may be LG,
that.
but regardless, they got to get their heads together and figure it out. It's inexcusable.
So, and the other thing I will say is that the controls really well. Like it's very good at being, because a lot of times, like, games like this, you don't necessarily know how fast you're going.
It's hard to tell.
At a certain speed. You think this is when you need to turn, but it's not. Starlink had that problem a lot.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yep.
Which is similar kind of arcade attempt at space combat.
Yeah.
But this thing not only has really tight controls and is really good at like giving you the spatial. It's very good at communicating spatial awareness in a way very few games of this type have been.
It's hard.
To me.
It's hard to do.
And they throw you into asteroid stuff and into, like, hallways sometimes, and into, like, the big mining facilities with all the girders everywhere. They want you to dogfight through tiny enclosed spaces, and the thing is, the way they've made this game control, you can do it.
You can do it.
Like you can hairpin and weave through stuff like Return of the Jedi style during a dogfight and come out of it without hitting the wall. Like it feels real good. And I would say this might be a slightly unhelpful comparison because I don't know how many people have played this, but if you've played Everspace and you wish Everspace was more of a shoot 'em up than a Dark Souls clone or a roguelike, this is your game.
Interesting.
This is an open world, pick up side quests and upgrade your ship and upgrade your character and find things to do and talk to people and pick up salvage and find hidden credit crates. And like, I love this game.
How much is it, Matt?
I think it was full price. I think
$60?
Was it? I can't remember. It was
is
not on
available
GameFace.
for pretty much every platform except for Switch, even Stadia. This is even one of the few games left that still came to Stadia at this point. While you check that out,
it was not on It was not on Game Pass. So I definitely bought it.
Sneaky says that the blackout only happens with Xbox on 3 different LG TVs.
It's $40 on Steam.
$40. That seems right to me. Does it seem right to you? Someone who's played a ton of it.
I think it's a bargain at $40.
Okay.
I just couldn't remember. I pre-ordered this a while ago, so I don't remember what I bought.
How much time have you spent with it at this point?
5 or 6 hours.
Okay. Does it feel like it's even getting close to wrapping up?
No. I'm still like about to hit the 3rd area, and I think there's 7.
Out of 7. So you're not even halfway through.
Maybe. I mean, it depends how, sometimes those other areas later in the game can be faster.
Right.
But it's a lot to do.
Seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah. I'm happy with it.
Are there a lot of cinematics in the game, or is it one of those games that starts with one and then you don't see them again?
It's pretty regular.
Okay.
I mean, enough that it's annoying to have to restart the game every time one's quiet.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what else these guys have done. Fish Labs.
Fish Labs? They have a couple games.
Oh, Galaxy on Fire. Yeah, they did those games.
They've not done anything big. I know that for
No, the Galaxy on Fire games, I played those on iOS, on my iPhone. I actually like
You
those
played
games.
a mobile game, Matt?
I did. Sometimes I do.
Vincent says it's $40 and there's a demo. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yep, everyone's saying $40
they did the
on
Switch
Steam.
versions of Saints Row the Third and Saints Row 4.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Shneeky asked, does it play like Starlink?
It's better than Starlink, but Starlink is not a bad comparison.
Okay.
Especially in terms of how Starlink is that big open solar system.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but there's way more to do and more variety. Like there's more characters. Like you're talking to people all the time.
Yeah.
You're following things and like they play out interesting. And then there's like, the random quests that pop up are more like Radiant stuff from Sky. It's like, okay, blow these guys up and pick them up. Here's a stranded motorist and you have to give them fuel. And while you're trying to give them fuel, bad guys show up and you have to defend them and stuff like that. But like the story stuff is actually somewhat involved and kind of helps build the world and what how desperate the people are and who they like and don't like. And there's things where like there's a couple times you have choices to make. Like there's early on there's a thing where like a pirate shows up in evacuation and offers to help with the evacuation and use their better their illegal shields to help the convoy. Mm-hmm. And you can choose whether to kill the pirate or let them join. Oh. And people are like, oh, I don't like that. But if you do let them join, they actually do help in the fight later in that mission. And they put the shields up, and they give you a lot more time to take down the enemies before they start doing serious damage to the convoy.
Interesting.
So there's sort of an ongoing thing where they're like, okay, you helped out, but we don't really want to hang out with you. And he's like, well, call me when you need to. So there's sort of an ongoing faction thing there. It's sort of the idea that like humanity has to unite against this cult.
This game is right in your wheelhouse.
You might find the humanity must unite against the dangerous cult thing to be slightly relevant today. Yeah. Just a thought. No, I really, really like this game.
Yeah.
This is.
I can just tell by your passion talking about it.
This is one of my favorite games of the year.
Wow.
Surprise late entry. I always had my eye on this from like when they first showed it at like the PlayStation conference and stuff because it's a space thing. Of course, I'm going to pay attention to it. But the combination of arcade controls and the snappy dogfighting that does exactly what you think it's going to do when you want it to do it, and the weird cosmic horror angle on the story, like you just made this for me, basically.
Well, it's an accessible game that doesn't sacrifice depth.
Mm-hmm.
That's a rare combination.
Yeah.
Usually it's one or the other. But this one has found other ways to add depth to the game aside from the controls. And I may give this a go.
Yeah. I try. I mean, I don't know I mean, part of the grain of salt you got to take with me when I'm talking about games like this is I've been playing space shooters and
that's not a grain of salt. I mean, that encourages me.
Yeah, and flight sims.
You're like an expert on this,
right? But what I'm saying is like I've been playing these things since I was 10, which means that the control barrier of entry for me is different from someone who hasn't played Wing Commander for 1,000 hours.
Right.
To me, getting behind these ships without the teleport is second nature. It makes a lot of sense to me how I'm maneuvering this thing. Some people might have more trouble. I've seen people who have trouble with 3D space navigation in these things, and to me, it's just second. It's like trying to tell someone how to throw a fireball in Street Fighter. It's just second nature to me. So you do have to remember that when I'm praising this, it's because I took this like a fish to water.
You're on a different scale from everybody else, basically.
And I think you can get there, but you're going to have to learn how, if you're not familiar with how these games play, and a lot of people aren't because they just don't make these very often anymore. But I do think it's rewarding enough. And the world is really interesting. Like I would watch like a Netflix show that was set in this world by better writers. I don't think
like they're good enough.
Yeah, I don't think the moment-to-moment dialogue is particularly great, but like I think the concepts and the world that's presented is like, oh, that's really interesting. It's clearly by people who like Warhammer 40,000. Yeah, there's a lot of elements of the chaos thing, like the warp to that. But especially if you liked how Hellblade sort of told a story with the internal like kind of whisper monologue thing, like they took that from in this, and it works pretty well, and it makes everything have a slightly ominous, like sinister tone.
It adds an edge to the game.
The tone is very dark, and like even when Nara is like trying to give hope to people, that whisper is saying like they're going to die.
They're not going to believe you or whatever.
And of course the ship. The AI of the ship just wants to kill the Circle. The ship feels betrayed by you and the Circle and only teams up with you after 7 years.
Because you're going to help him kill the Circle.
Because he can hunt Circle cult members. And
the personification of the ship is a different angle too.
Yeah. And the ship, like when you go like early on when you go rescue a convoy and you're supposed to go meet them at the rendezvous point. And the AI is like, so now we hunt the cult, and she's like, no, for now we go find we go right to the rendezvous point and escort them. And he's like, using them as bait, very good. And like,
he's just so
and
evil.
She's like, no, like he just doesn't assign any value to any of these people
because he's a machine.
Because he's a machine, and he's an AI. He's basically a Sith AI. He's basically, or like a Harkonnen AI if you want to go Dune with it. It's like it's the AI doesn't quite get like but he knows because the mental link with her that she's hurt by a lot of what they've done, and he tries to understand but can't because he doesn't quite understand. He's not quite that advanced, I guess. Yeah. But there's an advancing relationship between them and sort of him understanding why she's doing what she's doing, and that's part of the thing, and part of her accepting that she has to go kill all these people who were her, the cult members who were her friends. Yeah. They're not friends, but like her charges, and. And you kind of, it's been one thing to be an exile. It's another thing to actively fight against the cult that was her home for as long as she can remember. And letting the powers back in kind of opens her up to the cult mentality. So that's an ongoing mental thing too. So there's some stuff happening here. It's not just like your standard go trade stuff game,
which it turns me off.
Yeah,
I hate games like that.
You are delivering things now and again, but also a lot of times like the delivery stuff turns into a bigger side quest. Get delivered. Okay, we can, but first you got to do this for us. It's like really, like. So and that turns into another thing, and sometimes like it doesn't hold your hand. Sometimes on that, there's one thing we got to chase somebody, but you can't kill them. But they're really fast. Yeah. So how do you stop them? Well, you got to use your subspace boost. But the subspace boost is too fast because you'll overtake them. So you got to like manage that. And then like I tried that mission too early, and then later I came back to it because I had the teleport. Right. So now if he gets too far out of range, I can just like pop behind them. Right. And as you I think what's the upgrade for that is kill 3 enemies within 20 seconds after teleporting at them, which is very
knock that one out real fast.
Very simple to do. But that extends your teleport jump distance. So I can teleport like 20% further than I could when I first got the ability now, and that changes how the dogfights work too. Yeah. It's really good. Okay. Like out of nowhere, but it's I mean, I know it was advertised. It's not.
It was announced a while ago. It's been delayed
ago.
a couple times.
But like, I definitely say, do not let this one fall through the cracks because it's coming out in December, right before Christmas. Don't let this one slip away because like, if it looks interesting at all to you, because it's really good. Yep. And it's gonna get lost once all the crazy stuff starts coming out next year. So like, it's a good Christmas game.
Okay, so $40, every platform but Switch, including Stadia.
Just about everything.
Yeah. Highly recommended by Matt. So if you're into space shooters, this is a guy you want to listen to right here. And he says Chorus is a buy.
I think it's very accessible.
Okay. All right. Let's move on. We're going to talk next about a game I've been playing. Not that I really wanted to play it, but I feel like I'm going to do everybody watching this show, and Matt really, a service by discussing this game. It is Big Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain. Remember the Brain Age games from the DS era, Matt?
Yeah.
They were like rigid, like IQ tests, basically.
I remember the Big Brain Academy games.
Yeah. Well, they started with one and then morphed into Big Brain Academy. And Big Brain Academy is kind of like the softer, more gentle, like more entertaining version of Brain Age. Brain Age literally was like an IQ test that would tell you how old your brain was, basically. And it became huge.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like an exercise program for your brain, basically.
Yeah, it was like that whole era where Nintendo was like anti-video game company.
Mm-hmm. And it was based on like whoever the doctor guy. I mean, it was a whole thing.
Oh yeah, it was like he had the licensed doctor in there.
It was like a brain plasticity thing.
There was a whole slew of games. There was like Nintendogs and Electroplankton and just all these games that were more like apps than video games. And eventually that morphed into Big Brain Academy, which is more of like a video game. This is the first entry for Switch. And obviously, if the title didn't give it away, the big twist here is that you can compete. Brain versus brain. The game itself, though, it's... Man, I don't know. So it's called Brain versus Brain, but Matt, there's no online play. You can play locally with up to 4 people at a time, and then if you want to compete against other people, you compete against their ghosts online. So it appears that you're playing head-to-head, but it's really like a pre-recorded outing of how they did playing the game, and you're competing against them that way. So there is no online competition, which I found to be a little bit strange. But this franchise did come from the DS and the Wii era. It's basically just a mentally focused minigame collection. There's like 20 different minigame styles as far as like count blocks, look at 2 pictures, what's different in the second one. There's 20 different styles, but there are more than just 20 minigames. So I want to make sure that I make that clear. So basically it tests, how quick-witted you are, how well you can perform under pressure. The game also has Sprout support, which is like this learning app for kids. And somehow it's integrated. I don't subscribe to the app, so I wasn't able to test that out and see what it actually does. But I thought it was pretty interesting. And that plays into why I'm talking about this on the show, which I'll get to in a second. As I said, there's local play for up to 4 players. You can play online against ghosts. There's no network head-to-head play. And not only that, just to play the Ghost, Matt, you have to have a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online. That's insane. That you're not playing online. You're literally just downloading like a few bytes.
Accessing the internet. It's like AOL or something.
It's crazy.
Does Nintendo know that CompuServe isn't a thing anymore?
Netscape? I don't know, dude.
Is the Switch 2 gonna have a dial-up connection?
Yeah, and look, you can play this game on a controller if you want to, with buttons and sticks, or the D-pad if you want to. But you can also play it on a touchscreen, and I highly recommend playing it on the touchscreen. One thing I've discovered,
age 21.
Yeah, I put in, so when you put in your age at first, it adjusts how hard it is. So if you tell them you're old, it's going to be easy. So I put in 21 to see how hard the games were if they think you're young and spry.
All right, that's a good reason. I'll buy that.
What other reason would there be? Nobody thinks I'm 21. That's for damn sure. I know that much. Let's see. So what was I saying? The controls. So definitely use a touchpad on this. What I discovered is that the Switch Pro controller, the D-pad on that thing, is slow AF. There's a lag. And this game is about speed. So you want to answer each one of these as quickly as possible. when I tried to do that with the Pro controller, I was scrolling past stuff, accidentally hitting the wrong answer, etc., etc. Just use the touchscreen for this. It works much better, and you won't make as many mistakes for failed inputs. 2 people can save their data per Switch. So if you get this for the whole family, you can't get this for the whole family. Only 2 family members can actually.
So you play as 4 players, but you can only save 2 of them.
The 2 of the data. It's really weird.
Hell?
I know, it makes no sense whatsoever. I don't get it at all. As you play, you're rewarded with coins. The coins basically only unlock like new cosmetics that you can add to your avatar. All the cosmetics were dumb. I don't think I ever even added one to my avatar. But that's really the only incentive to play other than increasing your score. And this gets to the root of why I've decided to talk about this on GameFace. If you're like me, you may have sons and daughters. I don't, unfortunately. But you probably, at the very least, have at least a bunch of nieces and nephews. And right about now, you're trying to figure out, what do I get my nieces and nephews for Christmas? And I'm telling you right now, particularly if you have either a son or a daughter or a niece or nephew that is having problems in school, get them this. This will work their brains in ways that I guarantee their iPad and all the other stuff that they're using to pacify themselves every day won't. This will get their brains moving, thinking in different ways. Like I said, there's 20 different minigame types, but within each one of those types, there are multiple examples of the minigame. And the good thing about it is, as we said, you can put in your age when you first start, and it will shape the experience to their age. So if your son or daughter, niece or nephew, is 5 or 6 years old, when you do that, it will alter how the mini games work, how much time they have to solve each one, what types of mini games they're going to give them. It's just, if you want to feel good about giving a Christmas gift to a young relative this holiday season, this is it. I am going to buy like 4 of these. They're $30. The price is perfect. Now, I played this, I will say, I made it through most of the game in like 2 hours. But I'm an adult. And you give this to a kid, they're going to probably not remember that they're playing the same mini games over sometimes. They're not going to be as fast to go through the game. They're going to get a lot of entertainment out of this. I do think that the price of this is perfect at $30. There's a demo on the eShop right now, free. So if you want to check it out, or maybe you call your brother or your sister, you say, hey, maybe download this demo for my nephew or my niece and tell me if they like it. And if they report back that they enjoyed it, then you can buy it. But I also say this isn't just for kids. Like, if you put in like a decent age, it gets tough. It gets tough really quickly. Each mini game, there's like 6-7 rounds, maybe something like that. So they don't overstay their welcome. I'll say this. They're very good at getting really challenging just as the time expires. And so it's this thing where you're like, oh my gosh, I have 7, 6, 5. Oh, here's the hardest one they've given me yet. It definitely cranks up the anxiety when you're trying to get through this stuff. But yeah, again, I don't want to talk about this very long. I just know a lot of people are in the boat that I'm in, where every Christmas you're like, what do I get my nieces and nephews? What do I get the son and the daughter? Now, if you have a son and daughter, they probably have told you a billion things to buy. Mm-hmm. Nieces and nephews, not so much.
Yeah, especially quiet, like teenage ones.
Right, yeah. So
I might be too old for this.
So I highly recommend this. I do have one nephew who is learning disabled. I'm definitely buying it for him, without a doubt, because they are struggling to find. It's not even that he's really learning disabled. He has problems focusing and caring. And so they've tried to use some like online apps in the past to engage him academically. It hasn't worked. I have a feeling that this might work. And again, because it does switch things up so frequently, you're never doing the same thing twice for very long. And I think that same nephew also maybe has a little bit ADHD. Mm-hmm. So obviously mini games that only last about 10 seconds a piece are a good remedy for that. So Big Brain Academy, Brain vs. Brain for Switch. I highly recommend it for the young ones in your life during this holiday shopping season. It's $30. That to me is the exact right price. There's a demo on the eShop right now. So you can always have them check that out and play it before you want to take the plunge. But again, it's so cheap. And every kid has a Switch. Every kid. Every one of my nieces and nephews has a Switch. All of them. And it's just a good no-brainer. And also it's a good way, maybe you have a brother or a sister who hates your fascination or obsession with video games and thinks it's a waste of time. This is a good way to turn the tide on them a little bit too. Because they're going to open it up and be like, of course Shane got him a video game. And then they're going to realize, oh, this actually teaches my kid and actually opens up the doorways to thinking critically. It can be nothing but good. So it'll be a good ambassador for you and the rest of your family, showing them that video games can be more than just entertainment, but can also be entertaining when they're not made just for entertainment. So I think it's a good pick for the Christmas holiday season. I think Nintendo was very smart to release it right now, and I highly recommend it. Again, as a Christmas gift, all of you guys are out there. I'm sure you're all like, what the heck? Cinetyke says, Shane, you have to be the coolest uncle, right? Honestly, that's funny that you say that. Like, all my brothers and sisters say that I'm the cool uncle. Mm-hmm. But the reason they say I'm the cool uncle is not because of any hobbies that I have or anything like that. It's literally just living in California. That's it. Because all their other aunts and uncles are there all the time. Every birthday, every Christmas concert or whatever, they're all there. I'm never there. And I feel terribly, terribly guilty about that. But it creates this air of mystery about me with all my nieces and nephews. They're like, it's Shane, the guy who plays video games and lives in California that is so far away, I can't even fathom it. There's that angle to it, which is funny. All I had to do that is just live here. They hardly even know me. I see my nieces and nephews like twice a year max if I'm lucky. So that is the big drawback of moving out here to live here is not being around the family in general. It's definitely the worst part. But yeah, that's how it is, Cinetyke. He says, crap, California greater than games? Now I'm sad.
Yep. I remember when I went to New York when I was a senior in high school. We were in a hotel full of high school girls because it turned out we were in town at the same time as the National Girls Choir Competition.
I was going to guess a cheering competition.
It was a choir competition, and we were in the same. We were in the Missoula team was in our hotel, and when they found out that we were from California, like they were real excited. Like it was like we were purely. They're like, "Do you surf all the time?" We're like,
oh yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, we totally.
You can't imagine it, Matt. What it's like to go home. Like just
we were in San Francisco. We would die. Like
just the people I used to go to high school with. Like if I see them out at a bar over the holidays or over at someone's house who has a Christmas party, like it's insane. Like they look at me like I'm an alien that I live on some other planet. They're like, just tell me all about it, and I'm like, well.
Well, they're told that, partly because of the movie thing, but also because, it's like, oh, liberal California and all the crazy stuff that happened. Like, nah.
Yeah, they're like, isn't that in your city burning down? Isn't it like an armpit? It's like, no.
That's fine.
That's funny. The rent hasn't fallen at all.
Yeah, you'd think if everything was on fire, we'd be paying a little less in property taxes, but we are not.
All they know is what their choice of news tells them. And that's it.
Yeah.
No one knows.
But again, California's terrible, and no one should move here. Please do not move here.
Stay away.
Like, don't come here.
It's the worst place ever to live.
It's terrible, and there are enough Priuses on the road already. Like that's the thing is some of my weirdo not even friends, there's people that friends of friends from elsewhere. It's like, well, then how come everyone's leaving California? I'm like, if they are, I haven't noticed.
Yeah,
step it
up.
Like
they're all still here, but if you want to take some of them, please do.
Yeah,
maybe my rent will fall $20.
You want to pick some up and get them out of here? That'd be great. Take their car with you. Take the Mercedes with you, for God's sake.
Tiny2K, thank you for Twitch Prime. I saw somebody back here. Here he is, Don Lionheart. 43 months.
Wow.
43-month streak from Don Lionheart of Twitch Prime. I don't even have a 43-month streak because I can subscribe to us too. I have a Twitch Prime membership. I missed a month somewhere. I don't have a 43-month streak. Don Lionheart, that is amazing, man. Thank you so much. Then a couple more slipped in here. Tiny2K, as I said. And Senate, and Chevelle Man 1979. Thanks for Twitch Prime.
The other fun thing with the California thing is when they come here and they do not understand how big California is.
Right.
They're like, "We just go up to San Francisco and see the Golden Gate Bridge for one day." I'm like, "No."
Well, it'll take your whole day to drive there.
Yeah, that's it. Like if you want to come back, that's 10 and a half hours of driving round trip. So, yeah, it's like it's like saying, "Hey, we're in Atlanta. Let's go to New York for the day."
It is. Like, yeah, it's like people don't get California that don't live here. But hopefully they'll make it out here because once they do, they will get it. Not Sir, thank you for Twitch Prime. 33 months from you. And one Super Master Gamer, 33 months from you too.
Double 33.
I like that I inspired the OGs to come out and be like, oh, what? I got 33. It's like, oh, he had 36? Whatever. Chevelle Man, 36 months. Amazing, you guys. Thank you so much for taking the minute to do that. People watching the show on YouTube, please take a minute. It's the holiday season. We need the money. It'd be great if you could just take a minute to subscribe with Twitch Prime. It costs you nothing. It's a part of your Amazon Prime cost that you pay every year. They'll give us a free $2.50 every month for free. You just got to click the link.
Yeah,
Send it tight.
Tiny2K is also correct with the size of Texas. Like I was, even as someone from California, I was in Texas. I'm like, what the heck? Like it's
Florida
A,
too.
huge, and B, the sky in Texas. Like, because in
flat.
California, I'm used to like mountains everywhere, the oceans over here. Like Texas, like standing in the middle of like Plano and just seeing like
you can see Dallas.
You can see forever, and it's just this. Yeah, I know Montana is the big sky state, but Texas to me is like so much. I've never seen so much sky.
It's so flat. The whole state's
it's
flat.
Incredible.
Florida too.
Beautiful.
Florida, if you get to the northernmost point of Florida and you're driving down to Miami, you get to the Florida line, you're like, yeah, we're all there. We're in Miami.
Nope.
12 hours later. That's how long it takes to drive from the top of Florida down to Miami. 12 hours.
A lot of traffic.
Yeah, it's awful. It's like the 95 the whole way down through there.
Wow.
And then Nebraska, east to west, like 9 or 10 hours. And all that is just cornfields and straight roads. Mm-hmm. That's also very flat.
Kansas is what I've heard tales of driving through. Yeah.
Indiana.
Driving cross country doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
It depends.
Especially the middle part.
Here's the rub. When you drive across country, there are two main routes. One route is way shorter, like 10 hours shorter, but it's boring AF. That's when you drive through like Ohio and Indiana and Nebraska, and there's just nothing until you get to Utah. And there's another route that's like more northern, where you go through like Colorado and a couple other states that are like really beautiful, but it takes you longer to get there. So most people take the boring trip, which I did when I moved out here, and it was a grind. It's a long, long way. So anyway, there you go. That's Big Brain Academy, Brain versus Brain. I recommend it, but not for you, for all the little ones in your life. Let's move on. We're going to talk next. I don't even know what we're talking next about.
Battlefield.
Yeah. What? So we actually haven't like given our takes on Battlefield. Well, we did, and then we thought we needed to update them, but as it turns out, we really didn't, because the stuff that they ended up releasing later that wasn't a part of the beta was no more polished and no more robust. It's still basically a beta. Battlefield 2042 has been a disaster, and I guess the good news is that we already have word that EA is starting to address it. It basically gutted its Battlefield program, for lack of a better description. It cleaned house. There are, first of all, you'll be happy to know this, Matt, but Vince Zampella has taken it all over. He's the man. He is the man. EA bought his studio for a criminally low price, I would add. Like, I can't believe he sold for that. But he did. And maybe he knew this was all coming. And then he just took over EA. Step by step by step. And he is now the man. He is over.
You knew something was up when they made Fallen Order in Unreal.
Yep.
Because they're like, oh, you got to use Frostbite. No.
Yeah.
We're not doing that.
Only he could have said.
Like, no, we're gonna do the thing that works.
Yep.
For what we need to make, and not like force it into this stupid engine that can't do anything except driving games.
Yes.
It's more power to him. Like, the guy knows what he's doing.
It's amazing what he's done in a short time at Respawn.
Somebody's gotta.
I mean, think about just the money that Apex Legends is generating for EA every month.
And they didn't want them to make that.
I know.
How many times did that happen to him? Remember, like, Activision was dead set against a Call of Duty set in modern times.
Yep.
Like, they wanted to make the modern version for Call of Duty 2.
Yeah.
And Activision insisted that Call of Duty 2 be World War II for the launch of the launch of the next gen. Mm-hmm. And then basically said, if you do that and it sells well, then you can do your modern one.
Yep.
And they still didn't want it. And then Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare changed video games.
It did
forever.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely changed the first-person shooter genre.
They like,
without a doubt.
Like, about once every couple generations, Vince and his team changed the paradigm.
Yeah. Well, they're going to ask him to do it again, because EA is creating a quote-unquote connected Battlefield universe between 2042, which needs to just be finished, because it's not finished, A new experience from the developers of 2042's Portal mode, a studio called Ripple Effect. They're saying that's possibly going to be a free-to-play Battlefield, the mobile game, and a new game that's being designed by Marcus Leto. You know him. He used to work on Halo for years and years. He's also the guy, though, that left to create that game Disintegration.
Oh, yeah.
Which was that horrible, like, shooter where you were in, like, this little pod, like, machine.
Yeah.
Like, it was like an RTS cross with a shooter. It failed miserably and is already, like, non-existent, like, gone. But they're bringing...
Big Smoke saying new leaks are saying Battlefield 2042 was a Battle Royale game until 18 months ago.
Would not surprise me.
That's why they have specialists.
Would not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
That makes total sense to me. DICE GM Oscar Gabrielson is leaving. He's been there forever. I mean, when I say they're cleaning house, they're cleaning house. Vince Zampella has taken over the entire franchise. All three of those studios that I just mentioned are going to work together to fix Battlefield 2042 before moving on to all the other projects. But the crazy thing is, because it's this connected Battlefield universe, quote unquote, all these other future projects are going to end up in that same kind of Battlefield app. How does this all hit you, Matt?
I mean, I feel like that's what these games should have been doing a long time ago. Like, don't make people continually start over. Like, make it a platform. Mm-hmm. And maybe Vince can finally be the one that gets it to work right.
Oh, by the way, also, Battlefront done, basically.
I'm okay with
that. That
that.
also came out of this report.
I'm okay with that.
They do not want to pay the licensing fee for the Star Wars license.
Good. Let other people make games that care about making good Star Wars games.
Yeah.
Because they know. I mean,
they sold so many.
Not that Battlefront was necessarily bad, but like it was like a good first return to Star Wars gaming game.
Yeah.
But then they just didn't did it again, and then they didn't get anything out until forever. And it took Vince to get another Star. That's the only thing left. It's the only thing we've gotten.
I know. Yeah.
And I know we're getting the
Which
Hunters
is why he
or
just
whatever.
got promoted.
That's all they've done. That's all they've done. They've done two Battlefronts and Fallen Order. What the hell? It's been 12 years.
That's
almost.
crazy.
Like, we're 10 years almost. It's ridiculous. And I know they're doing the Hunters thing.
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for that.
Is Battlefield worth all this, Matt?
I have no interest in that Star Wars game, but I love that one of the characters is a Jawa standing on the shoulders of another Jawa. No, I don't think Battlefield is.
I don't either.
I mean, I understand.
I don't think it's worth all this.
I understand you can't just abandon the people who spent money on this.
Well, no, you got to fix 2042.
You got to fix 2042.
You have to.
I just feel like
But these three games, like,
do something else.
Yeah, like, how about this?
Anything.
How about you just fix 2042, and then maybe you use those three studios to work on one Battlefield, the way that Activision does with its three studios with Call of Duty. Why wouldn't you just follow that template?
Maybe just make something new and call it something else. Because you know what might be easier than all this? Not trying to get people to look at a Battlefield game again.
Right. It's
at a certain point, isn't it possible that like a new IP would be less difficult to put over on someone than to convince them to look at Battlefield again after how many bad experiences they've had with Battlefield?
Yeah. What's happening here is that Electronic Arts is trying to emulate Activision in the wrong ways. They're going all in on their shooter franchise, but not looking at how Activision has managed to do that successfully.
Yeah.
It's like, let's spread all these guys out thin so they all can make games that are not finished when we release them.
Yeah, but the problem with that also is, like, Call of Duty had a template by the time they did that. Like, they were churning those out because everybody knew what a Call of Duty was supposed to be, and there was no question about how it was supposed to work and what you're supposed to make. Battlefield keeps trying to reinvent itself, and it has no real identity.
Yep. I agree.
And the other problem, of course, is that, I think certainly people like our age and maybe a little younger still have that affinity for Battlefield, but I feel like we're holding on. To me, Battlefield is still chasing that dragon of 1942.
Yes, I agree.
Like the best time I had playing Battlefield is still playing the Wake Island demo of Battlefield 1942, which is the very first thing they ever put out.
Or Battlefield 2.
Battlefield
really
2 was
loved
good.
Battlefield 2. It was a perfect.
Bad Company 2 was a great time. Like, those games were over 10 years ago.
I know.
Like, let it go.
This is a horrible decision on EA's part. Putting 3 teams on the Battlefield franchise, if you're going to do that, put them on one.
Yeah.
Because the other part, too, is that these games come out like once every 4 or 5 years. It's not every year. So also, if you want a more steady cadence, say every 2 years for Battlefield, again, Have these 3 teams working on them. And they were smart because the people that they brought in, like one guy's really good at narrative-driven stuff. One guy's, Vince, is good at just making great shooters, designing them. And
Vince is good at knowing who to put where.
Yep. And, yeah, being a team leader.
Which is that's what a leader needs to do.
That's what a leader does. So they have the parts in place, but they're not utilizing them the right way. I think this is a huge mistake. I think it may kill the Battlefield franchise eventually.
Whatever it takes.
But
at this point,
but no matter what, the first thing they have to do is they have to fix Battlefield 2042 because it is a mess, a complete, unmitigated disaster. And then EA was very deceptive about it and tried to say, "Oh, that build that everyone played was like 6 months old." No, it wasn't. It wasn't 6 months old. It was because when the final game came out,
nothing changed.
You sat on your hands for 6 months. So something's got to give. I do understand why they want to make changes and things like that because they need to and they have to. They're just going about it all wrong. And EA has made mostly good decisions recently. This is a little surprising to me, and they're putting the right guy in charge. And I'm just wondering if eventually Vince is just like, look, it's time for us to have our come to Jesus moment. I've been here at EA now for 5 years.
There might be a little bit of knowing Vince. There might also be a little bit of like, okay, smart ass, you do it.
Right.
But like the thing is,
will.
When you say that to Vince, he does.
He will do it. Yeah.
Like,
He'll make you look foolish.
The trick there. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to love Battlefield. I mean,
Same.
It literally used to be my favorite shooter franchise.
No, call it a shooty franchise. Let's go with that.
It's my favorite shooty franchise.
No, I loved Battlefield back in the day, and like it was always the one I looked forward to more than Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Outside of when Infinity Ward would make a Call of Duty. Certainly the longest I've spent playing multiplayer shooters has been on the individual battlefields. Bad Company 2, I played the most of probably any first-person shooter multiplayer. Partly because I was playing with Abby so much.
It was fun.
It was fun. It just worked.
Yeah.
Like that rush mode was fantastic.
Yep.
And the destruction of everything, the fact that the battlefield was basically a flat plane by the end of the match was
just
great.
leveled everything. Yeah.
And like as soon as someone called those mortars down for the first time, everything changed. Like everybody had to move. Like it changed the entire layout of the fight. It was great.
It did, absolutely. So it's sad to see the series in this state, but EA's made its bed and now it's lying in it, and now they're trying to get Vince to
if there's
change the sheets.
If there's a less agile company in gaming, I don't know what it is. EA has such a hard time pivoting.
Remember this? Remember this trailer? How excited we were for Battlefield 5 after we saw this debut trailer? And remember?
God, that was a long time ago.
Yep. This was one of the best trailers of the year that year.
Yep.
But the game ended up being not bad.
Not bad, but just nothing special.
Yeah.
That's the
problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Not bad, but nothing special is pretty much the franchise at this point.
It should be the tagline for Battlefield. Except this year, it is bad.
They broke the mold in the wrong direction this time.
They definitely did. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Battlefield. If you're a Battlefield fan, I do not think that this is good news. Obviously, Vince Zampella working on it is good news, but the way how do you manage 4 teams? You have the 3 teams working on Battlefield and then Respawn. And there's probably 2 teams in Respawn. So you're managing 6 teams?
Although, to be fair, I would imagine those 2 teams at Respawn can pretty much take care of themselves.
Yeah, because he was managing them for the last 5 years. Yeah. So anyway, there you go. That's the latest on Battlefield. I don't expect Battlefield 2042 to be fixed anytime soon, even though they have all these people that are working on it.
So which will be fixed first, Battlefield 2042 or Cyberpunk 2077?
That's a good one. Oh, man. Well, see, I think CD Projekt Red isn't going to finish the job completely. They're going to cheat. They're going to eventually say, like, we fixed what we wanted to fix. Close enough.
Now there's ray tracing. Shut up.
Right. Yeah. And now it runs on PS5.
But Battlefield might do the same thing.
It might. I would probably say Cyberpunk. Because this game is broken, Battlefield 2042. I mean, if you put out a demo that's that broken... That's crazy, dude. The whole world is like flickering on and off, and you're like, yeah, that's cool. Let's have millions of people play this.
Sure.
It's lost its way. And that is one thing I think Vince will be better at. Like, Vince, I think if he were in
Vince
control...
will actually be like, the skybox has to work before we ship this.
But not even ship it. Like, let people play it.
Yeah.
Like, So, yeah. I mean, ultimately, maybe 5 years from now, Vince makes a big difference. But if this is the plan and they stick to it, what they're going to have to do is let Vince make the plan.
Yeah.
Because what happened here is the brass at EA is like, okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and we're going to put Vince in charge of it. Instead of saying, let's just bring Vince in and let him fix all this. Because then he would have done what I had hinted at, which is just let the 3 studios work on.
Letting him run the franchise is probably the best move.
The smart.
If you won't just like tie the tag on his toe and close the drawer, like that's probably your best move given the people they have to work with right now.
Yep.
And because of how self-running Respawn seems to have become, because they know they know what they're doing with Apex Legends, they know what they're doing with the Star Wars game, they know what they're doing with whatever the Titanfall team is working on. I don't know. Like I guess that's going to be different.
Yeah, I'm sure there's 2 teams inside Respawn. One's working on Jedi Fallen Order 2. The other's working on something
else,
shooter.
and then there's the Apex team.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, so 3 teams actually.
Yeah,
it's insane. The studio's not that old. They've expanded very quickly. All right, let's move on. We're going to talk briefly about a game that we should have talked about last week, and we didn't. And now this show was delayed by a few days because of my knee surgery, and so it's coming in late, but it left an impression on both of us, Matt more than I, because he played more of it, and that is League of Legends.
Did I?
You did play more. I only played like the first 30 minutes of it or whatever. To get
I didn't
footage.
play much more than that.
Okay.
I played a couple hours.
Okay. League of Legends Ruin King. It is a turn-based RPG based on the League of Legends franchise, which if you don't know is a MOBA. You wouldn't think that one would portend or lead to the other, but it has.
Yeah.
Not only that, the studio that has worked on this was pretty smart with how they integrated some of the concepts of a MOBA into a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, this is more related to the MOBA than the MOBA is to any of the lore.
Yeah,
like
that's a good way to put it.
It's weird. Also, like it starts with this blatant Final Fantasy VII reference, which turns out very differently than it does in Final Fantasy VII, which I think is the joke. And you can see they're using the same art style as Arcane, the Netflix show. So they are going for a unified
which is
world,
a great art style.
A unified. I don't like the character design very much
in Arcane.
No, I don't think.
Really?
I think the technically it's very good, but I don't particularly like the character designs.
Well, I would say this: I used to be a huge League player, and I struggled to recognize any of the characters in there.
Yeah,
Heimerdinger obviously is easy,
right?
But the other ones, like I didn't know who they were until they said their names.
I knew the one girl was going to be the other. Yeah, it's I guess kind of a spoiler. And then in this Misfortune, I recognize her.
For whatever reason, she's become like the focal point of the lore. It's really weird.
There's very few League of Legends characters. I mean, I know her, and I know Morgana, and I know
she's not even a popular character for people to play as. But for whatever reason, she's become the poster child.
So this turned out very different than the Eris.
Yeah, it sure did.
And now it kind of becomes World of Warcraft because he kind of goes Lich King here.
Yeah, that's true.
And so then it jumps 1,022 years later, where the game actually takes place, and basically it's a pretty solid turn-based RPG, story-driven RPG. Like you start with different disparate characters, you play them kind of solo in their own little big intro sections to sort of get used to how they play and how the combat system works. And then they bring them all together in a party, and then all the synergy works because they're all built. You know, the main characters are all built to work together. And before that, you're kind of dealing with like sort of lackeys to fill out the party.
Yeah.
And then it all kind of works together, and the combat system is a really interesting way to do things. And it does have a lot of MOBA references to it because it uses 3 lanes.
Yeah.
There's basically the way it works is there's it also reminds me of what was that? The first game I ever reviewed for Tech TV was Grandia 2. You remember Grandia had the line, the timeline.
Yeah.
And if you hit somebody with the right attack, it push them down the time.
Yeah.
This kind of has that.
It does.
It has the 3 lanes, and you have the middle lane is normal, bottom lane is strong, top lane is speed. So like if you do the top lane, you'll do your ability faster, but it will be weaker.
Yep.
And the trick is there are things that determines who goes first. You kind of like your speed if you want to get it out before the enemy can get their turn out, so you can kill them first, so you save yourself some damage. That's cool. But one of the other interesting things is like there are environmental effects or stage effects or character effects that create like a little glowing box on the track. And if your character's turn, their icon falls into that box, you will take damage or be healed or whatever the thing does that thing will impact you. So you want to either get in the box or out of the box, depending whether it's a beneficial or a detrimental effect. And then there's like things where enemies can have buffs on them, and the only way to get rid of the buff is to hit them with an attack on one of the lanes.
Yeah.
It's so that can like make a big difference. Certainly makes a big, that's another strategy choice. Like, you want to use a group attack a lot. I got 5 guys that all have the same buff, but they're all on the speed track. So I do one hit everybody hit on the speed track that one character has, and I can use this other character to kill 2 of them with a chain attack. Like it all works together real well. Like there's some real thought behind how this
It's impressive how they managed to incorporate any semblance of MOBA into a turn-based RPG.
Like it reminds you of its roots in a weird way, and it works.
Yeah, it does. And also, this, unlike Arcane, the characters are recognizable. Like I feel like this will resonate with the hardcore League fan more than Arcane would, because Arcane to me is just a great show.
Yeah,
it doesn't
I recognize
really matter.
This more. Yeah. For sure. Whereas Arcane, like, I haven't seen all of Arcane yet, but like, I wouldn't know that was League of Legends if you didn't tell me, and I wouldn't care.
It's way more overt.
Like, it stands on its own just fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And this does too, actually.
Yeah, this does too. Like, the world is really interesting. There's no, to me, I mean, not that I'm a League of Legends expert, but like, there's no hint of this in the MOBA.
No.
Like,
no, there's a paragraph underneath each champ's picture that explains their backstory, but like all the stuff that happens in here, like you would never know it.
Yeah, it's almost like you know what it reminds me of is when they started trying to expand the story stuff in Mortal Kombat.
Oh yeah,
where like
how does
it's like Street Fighter, where you're like, oh, so those guys know each other. Like Sakura takes karate lessons from Dan, and Blanca goes to school with her. Yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah. Except it's way better written than any of the Street Fighter stuff. Yeah. I think the world is interesting. Like, I like kind of the weird magic meets steampunk meets diesel punk thing they got going on here.
Yeah. You like the scanning, I'm sure.
Yeah, the scanning.
Well, the pulsing or whatever.
There's a lot of stuff to find in the environment. That's
cool. We didn't mention the scanning in Halo Infinite, actually.
Oh yeah, there's not that much of that.
Yeah,
really,
it's still there.
It's fun. There's some archaeology you can do. It's fun. Relics. What was it, the ruins and the relics?
Yeah. Yep.
I like these cutscenes are cool. Like they look.
It is kind of an indie game. Like it does.
I mean, by definition, so it's one company funding their own game.
Right, but I mean, also like it falls into the stereotypical definition. Like you can see, there's that opening cinematic, and then again, I didn't play that much, but it seemed like those types of cinematics went away, and they just started doing like the talking head bubble thing. You get a lot of indie
they bring back that kind of
do they?
Not the full CG, but that animated thing you just saw. Like there's a few of those throughout it,
which is typically how indies kind of tell stories. Yeah, but that's fine. Like this is also priced like
it's
an
also
indie
just
game.
how this kind of game tells a story. Not indie, but like it's a turn-based isometric RPG. Like that's what they are. So you can cut to CGs or whatever, and they do sometimes, but not too much. It's more told through dialogue and through flashback events are generally seem to be done through the animated scenes. But I enjoyed it. Like I haven't focused on it because I've been playing Chorus and Halo, but like this was a really nice surprise. Also, not full price.
Yep. It's priced like an indie game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but another example of something League of Legends related that people can enjoy even if they do not give a crap.
I mean, they've been working on these initiatives to expand the brand into other games for years. I mean, I remember having conversations about what would eventually become Arcane with Riot people at E3 like 4 or 5 years ago. Like they've wanted, and they did the Riot thing. They did multiple versions of all these things, and if it didn't work out, they scrapped it and started over.
Well, the big criticism of Riot all along has been they're the one game publisher.
Yeah, Riot Game.
Yeah,
was always the
that was the joke. Yeah,
but now and I gotta say, like between Arcane and this, like I'm pretty excited about that fighting game.
I know. Yeah, and they have good people working on it.
Yeah, they got the Cannon brothers on that, and Seth was in there for a while. But
I mean, the characters from League of Legends are pretty great. And it's pretty insane how many they have. And
they can go anywhere with them, really.
Anywhere.
They've got baseline personalities and kind of descriptions, but like you can put them wherever you want.
It's an empty book right now, pretty much. Yeah.
And I'm impressed by the quality of both of their projects here. And if they're going to get that level of quality out of the fighting game, like really exciting.
You can tell that Riot's very protective of its brand.
Yeah, like they aren't. Gonna, it sounds like it really seems. A lot of companies say this, like, oh, no, we never put anything out that wasn't up to our standard. But so far, Riot really hasn't.
It seems true.
They
really waited long enough.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine the iterations this thing must have gone through. But like, I'm pretty happy with it.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's cheap and it's available for like everything, isn't it?
Just about everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And also,
if you liked, what was that game that was based on that Joe Madureira comic? It was Battle Chasers. Remember that? Like it reminds me of that game
a little bit. Yeah, that's a good analog. And again, you maybe missed it. I talked about this a couple episodes ago.
The chat just said Battle Chasers Night War, and it's the same developers. So that would explain that.
That does explain it. Arcane, also on Netflix. It's a Netflix series. I don't think they've released the final chapter of that yet, but like the first 2 are up there now. Go watch it. It's amazing. I recommended it on GameFace a few weeks ago, and I got so many people sending me DMs and private messages saying thank you, that they really loved Arcane. I highly recommend it. Go check it out. And with that, it's time for the last topic of episode 282. We're warming you up for the Game Awards with our own predictions for the big show. Matt and I both have 3 different predictions. If you haven't yet, and you're running out of time to do it before the show kicks off, you'll have an hour between when we get done here and the Game Awards kicks off. Go and read Vincent's entirely too many Game Awards 2021 predictions article.
Yeah, all of Arcane is out, by the way.
Oh, it's all out now?
Yeah.
So the final act is out. Okay, good. Vincent did an amazing job. He literally, I think there's like 80 predictions in there. Matt and I are just going to do 3 apiece because we're short on time here. We also have to Name That Game in before we get out of here today. So Matt and I have 3 predictions apiece for the Game Awards. Matt, are you excited for the Game Awards tonight? And just generally?
No.
No?
I mean, I'm interested to see what they show. I'm less interested now that I know one of the things is not going to be there.
Matt made an initial prediction, and I had to unfortunately let him know that they've already said it wasn't.
We learned this morning that they're not doing that.
Yeah.
Where are you, Dragon Age 4?
Yep.
What is going on?
I think that was wishful thinking on your part with that prediction, right?
No, it's about time, and they've shown it before, twice, I think, at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
We learned the name of it at the Game Awards.
Yeah.
It seemed like what they were doing, so I guess you're not ready.
So why are you not excited for the Game Awards? You already said you're going to watch them.
It's a giant, embarrassing commercial, and I don't like it very much. But I'm interested to see a lot of the new trailers and stuff. But like if like a couple of years, I've just skipped it and watched the trailers afterwards on Sifted.
You can just go to sifted.net. Literally the minute something appears in the show, it's live on Sifted.
I did think last year's was better. Like it's gotten better over the time.
Even with COVID.
I still think until they fully until they award every award on camera, I'm gonna mock them.
That's never gonna happen.
Obviously not, because it's a commercial.
Yeah.
That's all it is. A commercial. It's trying to justify its existence with an award show behind it. But like until you actually give all the awards away on the show and not just list them off and then jump to the next world premiere, then you're not a real award show, and you need to stop. You need to drop the pretense. I'm also not thrilled with the initial response and statements about the Activision situation and Blizzard situation, where they're like basically it's like, oh, we're gonna keep that out of this, and then like obviously Jeff changed his mind and made better statements afterwards, and clearly the people spoke and the PR guy shifted his message as he should, but honestly, if you're that dedicated to the art of gaming and the art of the developers and recognizing people in that regard, calling that shit out should be your number one. I'm okay with it. But if you're okay with calling Konami out for treating Kojima the way they did, you should be okay.
We all know why that happened.
Yeah, we know why that happened, sure. But I'm just saying there's a consistency issue there.
Yeah.
I think he's more or less, found his footing on that. I think the revised statement about it was better. Yeah.
I think ultimately he got it mostly right. Yeah.
But we'll see. I am very interested to see I can't remember the guy's name. The
Joseph Ferris.
Yeah, him. I saw he's on the plane yesterday. He's on his way. He's coming. He's here. He's within 5 miles of us.
I wonder if like writers are writing this stuff for him now.
But I will say I would love to see them call Take-Two out.
Okay.
Because what they're doing to him is bullshit.
It is.
That suing because it takes two has the word take and two in the name.
I mean,
go fuck yourself.
Let's be honest, Take-Two's never going to probably show up at the Game Awards.
Of course not.
So.
Also, like, who in the world is going to confuse that game with It
It's
Takes
so dumb.
Two is a. What, you gonna sue the song next?
It Takes
Like,
Two and Nintendo, the two dumbest, most
Unbelievable.
litigious of all the
Unbelievable.
publishers. They'll sue for anything.
So-
Okay, we need to get to our predictions. We're running out of time here. Matt, your first prediction is your replacement for Dragon Age 4.
Replacement for Dragon Age.
And what is it?
So I'm just gonna. I think we're gonna finally see something from Hellblade 2 tonight. Not to constantly talk about Hellblade today,
Yeah.
but I do think it's. I think Microsoft's. There's a lot of buzz that Microsoft's gonna finally show some long-awaited stuff, and it could be other things. A lot of people are saying Fable. I think that's wishful
I'm thinking
thinking.
Avowed.
I think Avowed is further out than we think too.
Yeah.
I don't think it's. I think Hellblade 2 is gonna be the focus.
Okay.
I think that might be the only.
It's
thing we can
due.
really focus-
I mean,
it is.
this trailer was shown in 2019, and we have seen nothing since, other than some developer docs.
So I think we'll see some Hellblade 2 tonight, or Blinks the Time Sweeper 3.
Do you think they'll show like gameplay of Hellblade or just another trailer?
I think we'll see in-engine. I think
In-engine.
we'll see footage, like a gameplay trailer, let's
Okay.
call it. I don't
All
think
right.
we'll see a demo or anything.
All right. My first prediction, and this is something that I've been predicting and rooting for a very, very long time, and it may not happen, but I'm still going to hope for it, and that is a new Banjo-Kazooie game, but the twist is it's coming from Double Fine, who just created Psychonauts 2, one of the best 3D platformers ever, in my opinion. Now, one thing I would say is if Double Fine does a Banjo game, it's going to end up being a lot more streamlined than what you're used to with Banjo games, which I think probably
You're not going to collect 4,000 musical notes.
which I think may be good for a new Banjo game.
Yeah, I mean, really just take it back to Banjo 1 and undo the sprawling damage of Banjo 2.
Banjo-Tooie.
Banjo 2, there was a point where I was just like, I can't do this
It
anymore.
was insane. It was gigantic.
Constant backtracking, not knowing like why you
and there's
did,
no fast travel.
not knowing why you couldn't get things because if you didn't have an ability you didn't know you didn't have yet.
Right.
Like
yeah.
it was just irritating.
It was a monster, no doubt about it. And I mean, it got worse though. There was Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, where Rare actually tried to make a new Banjo game. And look, I think
that wasn't a bad game, but it was a bad idea for a Banjo game.
It was a bad Banjo game. Yeah. And so I don't think this will be Double Fine all on its own. I think it'll be like Double Fine with Rare or something. Like I think Rare will consult on the game, but I think it'll be built by Double Fine because are they going to make Psychonauts 3? Probably not. But this game is right in their wheelhouse. It just a lot of it makes sense for my fever dream of a new Banjo game to finally come true. All right, Matt, what's your second prediction for the Game Awards?
My second prediction, and this is probably a long shot too. I think my prediction, we're going to get a release date for Lego Star Wars.
Finally, Matt's fever dream will finally come to fruition.
What the hell is going? I mean, even more than Dragon Age 4. Yeah. What the hell is going on with this? I did a segment for IGN about this game in 2019 at E3.
Yeah.
And I don't really know any more now than I did then.
That's funny. Yep, I don't know what the holdup is, but look.
If you told me at that E3 that I wouldn't play this game for 3 more years, I would have said you were crazy.
Or you would say, okay, so the studio is going to be closed, or it's going to be blown up, or
like, no, here's an assortment of headlines for the next 3 years. Good luck.
Yep, that's a tough one, but I agree with you. I think we maybe will finally get the release date for that.
Because it's got to be. Doesn't gotta be. Really.
Well, it should be.
You'd think it would be a Q1, Q2 thing,
yes,
right?
Like any week now.
Like April.
Right.
Right?
Like latest April.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like probably before March,
Like,
actually.
Well, you probably. I mean, maybe you don't want to get March and February are real crowded next year.
Yeah.
Maybe you want April to be spaced out a little bit, but before E3,
Yeah, what the hell's
right?
going on, man? It's weird.
Before
It's bizarre.
E3.
Yeah. It has to be.
Yeah.
It can't go to a fifth E3.
Yeah.
That might be a record. That might beat a bunch of games.
Vincent says he thinks they heard spring. I keep thinking spring, but when I looked it up, it just says 2022.
Yeah, I haven't seen a release date for it
Like,
either.
there's no May 4th would be good. Yeah, that's a fitting release date.
Okay, my second prediction is the most obvious prediction ever. And Matt, I'm surprised that you didn't pick it.
Yeah, I gotta leave you something.
You did this time. And
Also, maybe I don't want this to happen.
Oh, that could be. You don't want to have the wishful thinking. And
I just don't want to deal with him anymore.
And that is that tonight we will all see the next game from Hideo Kojima. Because reasons.
because of reasons.
Where else would he debut his brand new game?
For sure. I think it's more likely we'll see his new movie project.
This, by the way, this shot right here was me playing Death Stranding.
True.
Falling asleep
with your controller.
Where else is Kojima going to debut his new game? Yeah. This is it. I think tonight's the night. I do not think it's going to be like Silent Hill or anything like that. I think it may be Death Stranding 2. It may be some other horror style game. But it's not going to be him joining forces with Konami to finally create Silent Hills and PT and all that stuff. He's been talking a lot about horror and horror games lately, so I do think it might be something in that vein. But I don't think it's going to be him like rejoining with Konami and Konami.
Maybe he'll team up with Microsoft this time.
And that's the other thing too. I don't think it will be a PlayStation exclusive this time either. Which means he'd have to get funding from other places as well. But I don't think you'll have a problem doing that. So
probably not.
Hideo Kojima, new game, probably a horror game, not PlayStation exclusive. That's my second prediction. And Matt, what is your last prediction for the Game Awards 2021?
Again, not a thing I want to happen, but I think Deathloop wins Game of the Year.
Oh yeah?
Just because it's such a press darling, and the people voting on this are a lot of the people that praise this thing to high heaven.
Yeah.
And I don't see anything else that's really on par with it in terms of the constant effusive praise it got.
Yeah, there are very few dissenters. We are among them, but there aren't many of us. It's been pretty much universally lauded.
So yeah, I'm saying Deathloop for Game of the Year.
Okay.
It's the last one of the nominees is the last one I would pick, but I think it is going to be the one that
by the way, don't read into that's going to be Matt's pick for Game of the Year or anything like that. In fact, don't read into any of this stuff and that it's going to affect our Game of the Year awards next week. They're not. Like none of this stuff I'm saying here.
Deathloop is going to probably be in that show, but not for that reason.
Right. Yeah, it'll be in there, but yeah, it's definitely not going to win my Game of the Year. I can tell you that right now. Although I liked it more than Matt, to be sure. And then my final prediction for the Game Awards 2021 is we will get a developer walkthrough for God of War Ragnarok. And it will be in much the same vein as the walkthrough that we just recently got for Horizon Forbidden West. It'll be narrated by one of the developers at Sony Santa Monica. It'll be 6 minutes long, kind of like the length of a long gameplay trailer. I did see today that Jeff said that there is one exclusive that he has that is like 6 minutes long. And I was like, well, that's lining up.
That's going to be Arc 2. You know that, right?
It could be. It very well. It's
going to be some weird-ass Korean MMO.
It could be. That makes me pass out from boredom. It's due. All we have so far is the teaser trailer and the first trailer for God of War. It's coming out next year. It was supposed to come out this year. Yeah. But now it's coming out next year. If it's going to come out before Q4 of next year, this is one of the last big promotional shots that the game has. If it comes out before E3, it is kind of the last promotional slot it has.
And it's a holiday game.
Yeah.
So I think this is very optimistic, but I would like to see it.
Yeah. So the opportunity is there for Sony.
It's Days Gone 2.
What'd you say?
Oh, no, it's Days Gone 2.
The timing makes sense for it. And if you just look at kind of how Sony has been handling its PS5 exclusive so far, a developer walkthrough is next in line for God of War.
I see a lot of people saying Breath of the Wild 2 demo. Not a chance in hell.
I think it's definitely going to be at the show.
They'll be mentioned, or it's like some kind
There'll be a trailer, I think.
Any kind of demo thing is going to be a direct. Nintendo's going to save that for themselves.
Actually, let's go and look in chat and look at some of their predictions here and see what they're saying. Because their guesses are pretty much just as valid as ours.
Yeah. What happened to that? You remember that the one they showed last year was I think it was Korean MMO or Korean game. It was like Norse based. You remember? You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember the name of it.
I don't remember.
But it looked really cool. It was a long trailer.
Death Stranding
it looked really cool.
Electric Boogaloo from Belliosa.
A Boogaloo is too interesting for anything that happens in Death Stranding.
Lots of people in here talking about Jeff and Kojima's uncomfortable relationship that they seem to have. Bunko, Fallout 3 New Vegas bundled, remastered, and Obsidian working on a new Fallout. That would bring the house down. Yep. He will get a milli from Jeff. That's possible. I don't know how that stuff all works out. I think he probably does it for free for Jeff. They're bros. Death Stranding Survive. Cinetyke, any Chinese AAA games finally breaking through from promotion in the West. I don't know about China, but Korea, man. South Korea is kicking out some stuff.
Yep.
El Guapo, Black with Wukong, is that what you're talking about?
Don't think so.
Yeah.
I mean, that Black Myth Wukong is a Journey to the West game.
Yep. Ashes in the Hourglass.
This might have been Valhalla Rising.
Oh.
That might have been what I'm thinking of. I don't know.
Doesn't sound familiar. Ashes in the Hourglass is saying Breath of the Wild demos were at the Game Awards 2014 and 2016. But the one was that it wasn't really a demo. It was like him and Numa sitting there watching a TV with footage on it. Yeah. We'll see. I am excited for the Game Awards. The next 2 hours for me are going to be insane because I leave here when I wrap the show. I have to wait to save the show onto a drive, and I have to rush across town. And there's no such thing as rushing across town in LA. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, no, you get there when you get there.
Right. I need to rush across town to get to my post-op appointment with the knee doctor so he can check my knee and make sure that everything's going the way that it's supposed to. Then I have to rush back. Then the Game Awards kicks off, and I have to curate all that stuff with Vincent for the Game Awards. I was going to go to the Game Awards, but now I'm not. It's just too much. And my knee, I don't feel comfortable being around crowds. I'm afraid someone will stumble into my leg or whatever. So I'm not going. So then I get back. I do the Game Awards with Vincent. We curate all the stuff for that. Then I got to get GameFace going and get that all set up to edit and then render overnight and upload overnight. Today's insane. But before we go, it's time for Name That Game, people. For some of you, your favorite moment of GameFace every week. If you never watched the show and you don't know what Name That Game is, it is a brief quiz show where I give you a series of clues and you need to try to guess the game that I am hinting at. You win all ties. You're playing against Matt. So if he guesses it before you, you don't win. If you do win, you get a set of 6 sifted stickers that we will ship anywhere in the world. Chat wins all ties. If Matt guesses the name of the game and I look over and it's already there, or if it appears in a couple beats after that, I give the win to the chat. Honestly, the object here is to give stickers away to our most awesome supporters, the people who show up and watch this show live week after week. I want to reward you guys. And with that, we're running out of time, so we got to get straight to it. Are you ready, Mr. Kyle?
Sure.
Let me get the sound effects all queued up here before we get going. All right, it's time. Clue number 1. You ready, Matt? You paying attention, Matt? When taking photos goes wrong. When taking photos goes wrong. Clue number 1. Let me bring up the chat here on the screen. Pokemon Gold, no. Death Stranding, no. Fatal Frame, no. Zack and Wiki 2, no. Boy, you really thought I'd go back to the Zack and Wiki. Yeah. Bug Snacks, no. Pokemon Snap, no. MDS4, no. Life is Strange, no. Fatal Frame, no.
Dead Rising's a good guess.
He got it. That's it.
Yeah.
Arigato-san, we have a winner.
Thank you, son.
Congratulations. It's so hard to write these. I kind of thought people might have a chance to get it on the first clue because it's okay, photos. How many games are there with photography in them? And then I was like, people will just Google video game photography. And they'll just go down the list and keep naming them until they get it right. And sure enough, someone got it right. And it is Dead Rising.
Hey, he's freelance, pal.
Good job. I am going to read the rest of these clues because I worked on them and wasted my time doing it. Clue number 2, everything is a weapon. Clue number 3, shop till you drop.
Yeah.
Game takes place in a shopping mall. Clue number 4, the clock is not your friend.
Yeah, I hated that.
You had to finish it in 72 hours. I actually wrote an extra clue for this one. I don't know why, because I should have known people were going to get it from the first couple. The next one is, frankly, you should not head east. Lead character's name is Frank West. Yep. And then the final clue, this one would have definitely given it away, a new dawn for zombie games. Because the game is based off of Dawn of the Dead, the movie. If you remember, it's a classic zombie film that it takes place in a mall. So there you go. I actually had an extra clue for that one that was not needed. But congratulations. And I just already lost his name. Let me get back up here real quick. Arigato Sun. You are the winner. Send us a DM here on Twitch, or you can send me a DM on Twitter. I'm at Dinfire, or you can send a DM to Sifted on Twitter at Sifted Games. If you are a member of Sifted.net, you can DM me at Shane on Sifted.net. There's a million ways to get to me. When you do that, include your full real name. That's very important. You can't just give me Arigato Sun. I cannot write that on an envelope and send you stickers. And include your full address, including if you live in a country where the province is really important, make sure you include that. And obviously make sure you include the name of the country as well, the zip code, everything. We just want to make sure that these get to you as fast as possible. And congratulations. Here's another round of applause for your awesome victory, Arigato Sun. And again, it doesn't matter where you live, man. We'll ship to you these stickers to you anywhere. And now we have about 10 minutes to do Q&A. I do have to get out of here right at 3 o'clock Pacific today because I have to make it, again, across town to the doctors. So we'll take a few questions here before we get going. Cinetyke, considering the knee surgery, why isn't the Name That game this week Surgeon Simulator? Because it's just too close to home, bro. I don't want to forget about it. The Big Smoke 82. Shane, just write one clue from now on. LOL. I think that is 2 weeks in a row that someone got it from the first clue.
It happens.
Yeah. This is for Vidya Games. Thank you for Twitch Prime. That's awesome, man. We appreciate it. 2 month streak, 5 months total. That's incredible. Thank you. Game Baron. I see you ended up guessing Dead Rising a little too late down there, unfortunately. Vincent, are you going to go back to GTA Online for the story DLC now that they're finally doing some? Good question. What about you, Matt?
I mean, maybe. The difficulty of that is reinstalling that.
Yeah.
If it's story DLC, I can play like solo. I might.
Yeah. If I have to form a crew to do it, though, no.
Yeah.
Sir Spider, thank you for Twitch Prime. Our winner from last week's Name That Game. His stuff just went out yesterday, I believe. So stickers are on the way. Enjoy those when you get them. Commander Fett, do you think that Xbox released Halo Infinite without all its features because of Game Pass? No.
Yeah.
I just think it didn't get them all done in time. And now it has Game Pass, so it had this other vehicle to put the multiplayer out early. It was going to be free no matter what, so they didn't have to split up the paid part of the package. I just think it worked out that way.
Yeah, I think they just had to get it out.
Yeah.
Now. It had to come out before you couldn't push that thing another year.
It would be a disaster. And
you have to release it
a year from now,
season.
I may not like that game as much as I did either.
Mm-hmm.
Ashes on the Hourglass. According to the latest report from Famitsu, 98.5% of all console sales last week were Nintendo Switches, with PS5 accounting for less than 1%. Despite their strong presence in the West, do you think Sony will actually attempt to regain mindshare in Japan, or they have abandoned it permanently? Everyone's abandoned Japan, except for mobile game manufacturers.
That market is a lost cause at this point.
It's not that big anymore. Everyone in Japan is playing mobile games, so it's not what it used to be. Is the point that I'm getting at? And another reason the Switch does very well in Japan is because it really is a mobile platform. I mean, Nintendo gussied it up to make it look like a console, and it does switch. You can play it on the go, or you can play it on your TV. But really, it's just a mobile. It's a phone. That's really what it is. It has the same processor as a lot of phones and mobile platforms. So it makes sense that, there's plenty of games that the Japanese are enjoying on it over there. It's mobile. It's a handheld. Nintendo's the only one still making the handhelds. It's just the perfect storm.
And they're still selling PS5s faster than they can make them.
Yeah.
So.
And do you think Sony will attempt to regain mindshare? I don't. I don't think Sony cares. I think it cares culturally. It's not going to...
Yeah, culture they do because they're from Japan.
Right.
The market is global. And
I mean, Europe's
they'd
bigger.
rather get in China.
They're dominating Europe and the U.S., and those are the two biggest markets, and that's how you win.
And now they're trying to get into China, and that's where the rest of the money is.
I'm glad someone's asking this one, because I did read this. Erebus Jones. Jeff Gerstmann's review of Halo suggested he felt like reviews of games on Game Pass are pointless. No, he didn't say games on Game Pass are pointless. He said reviews in general have basically become pointless. But anyway, since they recommend the service regardless, does he have a point? I'm going to address the point of him saying that basically video game reviews are going the way of the dodo. And I agree with them. And there's a reason why we haven't done game evals on the site for a long time. One, the value of them has just diminished so much. Nobody waits with bated breath anymore for reviews because there are so many. back in the day, in Game Trailer's heyday, it was like there are like 25 sites that really reviewed every game. And you could, on release day, you could read them all. I mean, you still can. Like if you
knew all the people who wrote them.
You knew the people who wrote them. You knew what they liked or they didn't like. There's been so much turnover with the people writing these now. There's so many influencers who literally may be like 19 years old reviewing games. It's like the value of the review has just been cheapened.
Yeah.
And
for me, at least, there's a couple moments where I'm just like, my controllers are older than you.
Right.
Like, it's just
and I'm supposed to trust you on a game. Yeah. I mean, for me, no way.
I mean, I've always made
for someone else who's 19, maybe.
Maybe it's case by case, but person by person. But like, also like you don't know that necessarily anymore.
Yeah.
And the majority of game criticism seems to come, certainly for most people, seems to come more in the form of podcasts.
Yeah.
Not formalized.
That's what
reviews.
we're doing because it's like.
Even Tim Rogers doesn't do reviews anymore. He just films.
I'll put it to you this way. So I read a bunch of reviews for Halo Infinite like this morning after I had played almost all of it and kind of informed my opinions on it to see if I was like an outlier or whatever. And like, I don't know, I got through like a lot of the reviews and I didn't really glean anything out of it. And I'm like, we're going to talk about this for 45 minutes probably on GameFace. I cannot see any review that's going to give you better information than what Matt and I just gave you. And I'm not saying that this podcast is better at evaluating games than others. I'm saying any podcast is going to be better than reading an 800-word review. It just is. You're going to sense the passion of the people who are talking about it. You're going to sense when someone gets really fired up about something and you're like, oh, if you just read it, you're like, oh, that's just another thing that they don't like. But when you hear someone discuss it, you're like, oh, Shane really hates that part of the game. You get it more. So to Jeff's point, yes, the way the mediascape has changed, reviews are becoming kind of pointless. And now that, bandwidth is so cheap online and putting up a 2-hour video in 1080p or 4K isn't a big deal, all that stuff is fed into the devaluation of video game reviews. Do I think there's still a place for them? I do, Matt. I think there's a place for them if you make them entertaining. So I think there's still an opening for XPlay to do its reviews the way it used to do them. Because those reviews, people who didn't even care about games could watch an XPlay review and still be entertained by it.
Well, the old ones are still fun to watch sometimes.
Still.
Because we tried to make them funny and entertaining.
Yeah.
And we got threats for that.
We did.
Well, it's funny now that you look, when you look at it now, almost all gaming content on YouTube and online is based on personality and humor.
Yep.
And back then we were told we didn't respect video games because we made jokes about them.
Yep. So I think there's space for that. The traditional review, not so much. And I'll say this too. I do think that there's space for the game eval because it is doing something different. It's allowing you to tell us what you care about most in games and shape it. We just don't have the budget to do a lot of game evals and to hire freelancers to review them, and I don't have the time. So would we still do game evals if we had the money? We would, but because they're different, they're not a traditional review, so to speak. We just don't have the resources to do it. So it's not a black or white thing. There are a few exceptions to it, but generally, I did agree with Jeff Gersman's assertion. And that was the first review that Giant Bomb had published in like 9 months. The Halo. And half of the review wasn't even a review. It was Jeff discussing this.
Yeah.
About how things have changed, and normally I would be writing this and that about Halo Infinite, but now it doesn't seem like it makes sense to do that anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And he's right.
Yeah.
He's on the money there.
It's the world has moved on in large part.
Yep.
I mean, I will always have a soft spot for the kind of the formalized review. I have a full run of Video Games Computer Entertainment Magazine, which is like the driest, most impossible to sell to someone today magazine, maybe even of all the old gaming magazines.
Yeah.
And I respect those guys tremendously, everyone who worked on those, Andy Eddy and all those guys. But like, it's amazing to see what it is now and how different and how it's all personality and opinion driven in a way that it just never was before.
Yeah.
And it's not really worse or better. It's just sort of different.
Yep.
And so I certainly understand. I haven't read Jeff's review, but I understand sort of why you'd sit down to write that and be like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. Because I'm going to go on the Giant Bombcast in an hour, and I'm going to talk about it for like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and like 50 times as many people are going to hear that as they're ever going to read
and
this.
Why am I sitting here working on this piece of writing that, let's be honest, writing's hard.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time. You have to go back over it and am I leaving stuff out? Have I worded this correctly so there isn't any confusion? Writing is very complicated. It can be a pain in the ass if you're not good at it. And Why? Why would you subject yourself to it when you don't have to, when you can tell the story much better on a podcast or some other form of content? So I hear Jeff, like, he's right.
Yeah.
Things are changing, and I think for the better, honestly. I think it's better to listen to a podcast or watch a podcast in our case. You'll have a better idea of whether you're going to like the game or not than just reading one of my reviews. It's just the way it is. Even a really great video review like we used to do at GT, it's still better to listen to a podcast, I think. Just like one more. Minority Games, how was the knee surgery? Did you watch the video? I did not watch the video at all. In my knee surgery, you'll have to watch the beginning of the show. Maybe you showed up late. I talk about it at the beginning. It was more than I thought, and I bit off more than I can chew, and I now fear I am going to be gimpy for the entire Christmas holiday. When I have to travel home, and I'm on trains and rental cars and all this other crap, it is what it is. It's too late now. The knee's already cut and split and swollen, so there's no going back. I'm just trying to stay positive because that's all I can do. One final question. Shane, have you discussed the Raven stuff yet? I'm so infuriated about this as someone who worked 2 years at Raven. Muddying Raven name to all the other shit show at Blizzard is awful from all the journalists. I'm not 100% sure what he's talking about.
The Raven thing was there was something about.
Is it just laying off QA people?
Well, it's because they promised like improvements and bonuses or whatever, and then they suddenly and raises and stuff, and they suddenly fired a bunch of people. And it was
only like a dozen people though, right?
Yeah, but it was also part of the it's been part of the scandal with the sexual harassment and all that. And I guess some people think they're being singled out, but like I mean they're just part of the deal. They've been around forever, and so they've had a lot of time to make a lot of mistakes in that regard. So I'm sure there's a lot of stories.
It's personal for you because you work there, and I mean I hate to say this, but layoffs happen all the time. And just be glad you're not working at, what was that company where the CEO fired 900 people on a Zoom call this week? I don't remember what that was. There's a CEO that fired 900 employees on a Zoom
Kellogg's.
call. No, it was called...
Kellogg's is replacing 1,400 striking people with scabs.
It was like Better.com or something. I think that's what it was, Better.com. He fired 900 employees in a Zoom call and showed no emotion. He said, if you're on this call, you're one of the unlucky ones who is now laid off.
Yeah. I mean, the important part is that the Raven thing seems to have been kind of the thing that sparked some actual like work stoppage and walkout stuff this week. So more traction, more movement, more reaction, more pressure on Kotick and the leadership of Activision to actually do something.
Yeah.
So.
All right, that's it. We got to cut it off here. I got to rush across town to get to the doctor. If I don't get this appointment, I may never get another one because everything's just so backed up from COVID. Yep. Thanks to everybody. There's tons of questions still in the chat. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of them. We love you guys. We would answer every single one of them if we could. If you're listening to this out on any of the podcast services, and the show is on all of them, it is 4 days delayed on all the podcast services and on YouTube. But if you're watching or listening for free, please check us out at patreon.com/sifted. That's sifted without the E. You can pledge as much or as little as you want. For $4 a month, you get all our content early, Packed or Factor a week early, GameFace 4 days early. I think we're the only major gaming Patreon left at $4. Everyone else has jacked up their price. We've stayed at $4. We'd really appreciate it. It is the holidays. And if you can't do that, please subscribe with Twitch Prime. If you're watching on YouTube, the instructions are down below. Really appreciate that. We got to do something, people. We're hurting financially. Just being honest with you guys as the holidays appear. So anyway, thanks everyone. Glad I finally got in here to do this. I regretted it at first as I was limping around in here. Once I sat down and did the show, I'm glad that I did it. We will have our Game of the Year episode next week. Follow Sifted on Twitter at SiftedGames to figure out what day that is. I'm not 100% sure when that's going to happen yet. So make sure you're following us there. Follow me on Twitter as well. I'm at Dinfire. Follow Matt at MKeil, MKEIL. As I said before, follow Sifted at SiftedGames. So we'll be back next week. Maybe Tuesday, maybe another day. Matt and I will figure it out, and we'll put it up on Twitter. Make sure you follow us there. GameFace is up and out.